Hello guys, welcome to Fanfiction Audiobook. Here you find original fan-made audio stories. Enjoy the journey into new worlds.
Ben 10. Sign in with a flawless Omnitrix in a glitched multiverse. Part 1. Ah, I'm on fire. A shrill scream echoed along the forest path. A person, covered in fire, was running around, screaming, the flames on his body flickering with his movements. Ben Tennyson, calm down. A handsome Asian youth with black hair walked over, teasing, keep running around like that, and you'll end up in prison for starting a forest fire. Thud. Heat blast, the form Ben Tennyson had transformed into, stopped in his tracks immediately. He stood with his back to Xiao Ran, motionless. Have you noticed that even though you're on fire, it doesn't hurt? Xiao Ran asked, a smile on his face as he watched this iconic scene from the original work before him. Ben Tennyson said nothing, merely turning his head stiffly to look back at Xiao Ran. Under the glow of the flames on his body, the skull face he wore was incredibly hideous. That face. Xiao Ran fell silent, his smile gradually fading. I came here to witness an iconic scene from the original, not an iconic scene from the error Omnitrix. He, Xiao Ran, was a transmigrator. He had been at home watching Ben 10 commentary videos when he suddenly died of a heart attack. When he opened his eyes again, he was an infant appearing on the streets of the United States, where he was picked up and adopted by a kind couple. The couple also had a son named Ben Tennyson, who was the same age as him. The two became best friends, and knowing the plot, Xiao Ran participated in this summer trip, intending to experience the original story. As it turned out, it was a tragedy. This was the world of the error Omnitrix. He. The smile shifted to Ben Tennyson's face. He raised his right arm high, and a large amount of flames began to condense on it, forming a deadly flaming fist. Seeing this, Xiao Ran wanted to move, but his body was awkwardly paralyzed. It seemed he was about to become part of an iconic scene. Ding! Danger detected for the host, check-in system awakening. This system will issue various check-in tasks. Completing tasks will grant check-in rewards. Reward quality ranges from low to high. White, green, blue, purple, gold, red. Task system loaded. Remaining systems loading. System. Xiao Ran wasn't too excited, instead nervously saying to the system, stop talking nonsense, I'm about to die at the hands of the error Omnitrix. He was about to die, what was the point of talking? Ding! Error Omnitrix has triggered a red check-in. Because the host is a newcomer, this check-in is completed immediately. As soon as the voice finished speaking. Whoosh! A colorful light erupted from Xiao Ran's wrist, and on his left wrist appeared an Omnitrix identical to the one from Omniverse. Check-in reward. White version Omnitrix, Swampfire X1. White version Omnitrix. Transformation time and cooldown time are the same as the regular watch, but this watch cannot be taken away, cannot be used by others, and is permanently locked to the host. The design of this watch is identical to the Omniverse watch. Phew. Xiao Ran took a deep breath, raised his finger with a tremble, and tapped the Omnitrix screen. The screen popped up, displaying the silhouette of Swampfire. Boom! A loud noise rang out, and Ben Tennyson, gathering a hellhound-like flaming fist, blasted towards Xiao Ran's body. The moment the flaming fist approached, a dazzling light burst forth from Xiao Ran's body. Bang! The flaming fist instantly shattered the light and punched through Xiao Ran's body, but Ben Tennyson frowned slightly. The feeling was wrong. Ben Tennyson, I'll try not to hit you in the face, but for the rest, you deal with it. A cold, Asura-like voice rang out. In place of him stood a monster with a head like fire and a body made of plants. Ignoring the flaming fist that had pierced his chest, he clenched his vine fist and slammed it hard into Ben Tennyson's chest. Ben Tennyson's body instantly bent, and he flew backward more than a dozen meters. Swampfire just frowned slightly, and the huge gap in his chest healed instantly. A sound of breaking air suddenly came. In the distance, Ben Tennyson climbed up and flew towards Swampfire, spewing fire from his whole body. Is that so? Swampfire bent his arms, and violent flames erupted from his body, enveloping him completely. He also flew up from the ground, but his speed was even greater as he slammed fiercely into Ben Tennyson. Boom! The two figures collided at the same time. Swampfire flew out and fell to the ground, his shoulder directly deformed. But he just shrugged his shoulder, and it healed. On the other side, Ben Tennyson's arm joint was twisted, and he also fell to the ground, unable to get up from the pain. He had been crushed by Swampfire. Swampfire possesses the powers of both Heat Blast and Wildvine simultaneously, so he can suppress bad Heat Blast. Swampfire clutched his fist in a dreamlike state and took a deep breath. The Omnitrix given by the system had the exact same strength as the original. It allowed him to handle the Error Omnitrix. Before you unlock Error X Superman, you must take decisive measures. Swampfire took a deep breath while walking quickly to Ben Tennyson. With a complex expression on his face, he struggled to raise his vine hand and condensed a blade of fire. This blade swung towards Ben Tennyson's left arm. Whoosh! Light suddenly flashed on Ben Tennyson's body, and he turned back into his former self. The Error Omnitrix on his left arm directly unbound itself and leapt high into the air. The Error Omnitrix narrowly dodged Swampfire's blade. Xiao ran, following Ben Tennyson's fearful exclamation. Swampfire tilted his body, forcibly controlling the blade to strike the ground. Ben Tennyson, I'll deal with it, you go first. But the Error Omnitrix made a turn and landed on Ben Tennyson's right arm. No! After a cry of alarm, Ben Tennyson's face turned into a twisted demon face, and his body transformed into a slender velociraptor body. Bad XLR8. Swampfire immediately gritted his teeth, raised his fire blade, and slashed towards Ben Tennyson. The next second, the windshield mask on Ben Tennyson's face dropped, and he silently bolted away, disappearing from Swampfire's sight. Can't let him go. Swampfire's heart tightened, and he immediately searched the surroundings with reluctance. Until the transformation ended, he still hadn't found Ben Tennyson's figure. Let's go back to the campsite first. Xiao Ran nervously shuttled through the forest, striding towards the campsite. Let Grandpa take precautions in advance, at least we can avoid him suffering a tragic death. As he walked, his emotions gradually calmed down. Although I currently only have Swampfire, as long as I continue to check in and get more rewards, I can definitely take down the Error Omnitrix. Xiao Ran clenched his fists, looking at the Omnitrix on his wrist with a determined expression. Perhaps he could even get rewards better than the Omnitrix. As long as he developed himself, he would definitely be able to take down the Error Omnitrix. Moreover, he had to admit, compared to his original bland life, a life as a side character where one could see the end at a glance. At this moment, he could also choose a dangerous, yet desirable path of a hero. This kind of excitement even made him feel a little exhilarated. Ben Tennyson, I will definitely save you. Whoosh! In the woods not far away. Bad XLR8, transformed from Ben Tennyson, was actually quietly tracking Xiao Ran from a distance. He stared fixedly at Xiao Ran, but hesitated to make a move. Only the desire for slaughter on his face grew deeper and deeper. A moment later, Xiao Ran walked out of the woods and arrived at the campsite. At the campsite, an energetic old man with graying hair looked at Xiao Ran in confusion. Xiao Ran, where is Ben Tennyson? Didn't you two go to the bathroom together? Grandpa, it's like this. Xiao Ran took a deep breath and quickly explained about the Error Omnitrix. From when he and Ben Tennyson saw the shooting star, to Ben Tennyson getting the Error Omnitrix, and he himself being hit by another shooting star, obtaining the Omnitrix. And then to him fighting off the Error Omnitrix and running back. All of this sounded completely unbelievable. Haha. A girl with short orange hair and a delicate face smiled. Xiao Ran, is this a strange story you and Ben Tennyson came up with? You can't fool me, Tilda. Gwen, it's true. Xiao Ran's expression was serious as he looked gravely at Gwen Tennyson. Among the three, he was relatively mature, acting more like a childhood friend and older brother. Looking at his serious expression, Gwen Tennyson couldn't help but feel confused. Do you really have to take a joke this far? Click. Max opened the door of the rust bucket with a blank expression. Then, he took off his floral shirt and put on a plumber's uniform. In his hand, he held a laser gun, with a barrel that was an exaggerated half-meter long. Gwen Tennyson's mouth hung open, her small eyes filled with shock. My true identity is a plumber, an organization that secretly protects the Earth. And the thing about the Error Omnitrix is true. Max shouldered the long laser gun and said firmly, Next, we are going to deal with that error omnitrix. Grandpa, awesome. Seeing this, Xiao Ran let out a sigh of relief from the bottom of his heart. The pressure was instantly cut in half. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, the sound of running came from the forest. There's a little dwarf. Gwen Tennyson pointed her finger toward the forest in terror. From the forest, a figure was running continuously. It was very short and extremely fast. Before Xiao Ran could react, a dazzling laser instantly pierced through the air, accurately hitting the moving figure. The figure suddenly stopped. It crashed headlong into the ground. Grandpa soloed the error omnitrix. Xiao Ran looked at Max with a look of disbelief. Righteousness over family. This laser gun only stuns people, it doesn't kill. I'll go check it out. Max explained simply, then walked quickly to the side of the forest and brought out the figure. That little dwarf. It was a terrifying monster with protruding eyeballs, exposed teeth, and a completely disfigured face. Its skin was black and white, quite distinctive. This is Ditto. Xiao Ran's heart skipped a beat, and a chill suddenly ran down his spine. Swish, swish, swish. In the nearby forest, one figure after another slowly walked out, and the glitch Ditto that Max had been carrying climbed up, completely unharmed. Dozens of glitch Dittos surrounded everyone like an army. They had eerie expressions, smiling at the pale-faced Xiao Ran and his group. Xiao Ran looked at this scene, then looked at the Omnitrix on his wrist. The Omnitrix was still in cooldown. The sky was falling. Ding! Glitch Ditto sign in triggered. Sign in task. Pat the shoulder of the main glitch Ditto. Sign in reward. Green reward. The glitch Ditto in the very center was flickering with a faint green light. How am I supposed to complete this task? Xiao Ran's expression became difficult. Xiao Ran, activate the Omnitrix. Max walked over with the terrified Gwen Tennyson and shouted anxiously at Xiao Ran. Before Xiao Ran could answer. Bang, bang, bang. All the glitch Dittos suddenly assumed fighting stances, looking at Xiao Ran as if facing a great enemy. Understood. Xiao Ran's stiff expression gradually became active, and the corners of his mouth curled into an uncontrollable arc. The error omnitrix had no cooldown limit. Therefore, those who knew about the error omnitrix, including the error omnitrix itself, had fallen into a logical trap. They all thought that Xiao Ran's watch didn't have a cooldown either. A way out, I've found it. Xiao Ran suppressed his fear and spoke decisively. Actually, I've been thinking, why are we enemies? We both come from the hands of Azimuth, why not cooperate? The glitch Ditto looked indifferent, staring at Xiao Ran, unimpressed. Did he think he was a 3-year-old child to be fooled? Oh, it seemed it wasn't even a month old yet. To show my sincerity. Xiao Ran lowered his body and lifted his left wrist with the Omnitrix as if surrendering. My watch can let you copy DNA, I won't resist during that time. Quote question mark exclamation mark quote. At this moment, the glitch Ditto looked ecstatic and walked over, dropping its guard. Max looked at this scene in disbelief and shouted angrily, Xiao Ran, how can you be such a coward? It controlled your good brother Ben Tennyson. Sorry, Grandpa, I want to let it scan. Xiao Ran said loudly. As the glitch Ditto walked up to him, his heart also became tense. The glitch Ditto extended its left hand and slowly placed it on Xiao Ran's Omnitrix. The two watches collided faintly. The glitch Ditto suddenly showed a look of surprise, its face full of shock. Scan failed, right? Because this watch is a system product. Xiao Ran's hand suddenly landed on the glitch Ditto's shoulder, and then he kicked the glitch Ditto flying. Ding! Sign in successful. Sign in reward is Chromastone. Hearing this pleasant sound, he did not hesitate to control the Omnitrix. The Omnitrix's cooldown had just ended. Bang, bang, bang. Countless glitch Dittos erupted, rushing furiously toward Xiao Ran, wanting to tear him apart with their numbers. Even if he turned into swampfire, they could tear him apart until he had no energy to recover. Xiao Ran, so you were going for a desperate fight. Max looked at this scene in grief and indignation. Countless glitch Dittos instantly covered Xiao Ran's glowing figure. Xiao Ran was doomed. Xiao Ran, run. Gwen Tennyson said worriedly, reminding him urgently. Ah! Suddenly, one after another, the glitch Dittos screamed, withdrew their limbs, and retreated quickly. A tall, crystal figure with mysterious luster all over its body slowly stood up. He clenched his fists, his eyes mocking. Weren't you attacking me? Why is it that you are the ones hurt? All the glitch dittos clutched their attacking limbs and blew on them. Their limbs were swollen instantly. Roar. The original glitch ditto suddenly roared. The glitch dittos endured the pain, surrounded trees, and actually uprooted them. They threw the trees, forcefully slamming them toward Chromastone, Max, and the others. I remember, Chromastone can convert energy. Chromastone quickly reached out and placed his hand on Max's laser gun. He raised his other hand, aiming it at the incoming trees from the air. Bang! A deep blue energy blast erupted from his palm, blasting through the trees. This dazzling scene deeply shocked everyone present, including the glitch dittos. A little shock from the Omnitrix. Awesome. Chromastone enjoyed the violent output, twisting his palms with a hint of excitement. The terrifying laser bent instantly, sweeping across a glitch ditto like a great sword. They screamed instantly, each one blasted away by the laser impact, all flying high into the air like kites. The scene was simply violent. Xiao ran. Max rubbed his hands together, his face calm. I'll go catch the original, you keep fighting them. Grandpa, you still remember the original. Chromastone looked at Max with an exaggerated expression. Grandpa, a Max-level teammate. Max nodded. Always remember, this jerk who hurt my grandson. Bang bang bang. At this moment, countless glitch dittos fell to the ground like flowers scattered by a goddess. They piled up directly into a small mountain. Chromastone, a string of dozens. Hiss, the ditto army is nothing much. Chromastone said this, but lifted his feet and walked towards the small mountain with Max. Next, they would find the original and then break off its arm. Whoosh. Countless dittos began to riot rapidly, merging together. That small mountain compressed into a single figure. A single one. A tall figure with pins on its fingers and no pupils. Chromastone widened his eyes slightly, looking at the figure in front in horror. What kind of alien is this? Ding! Glitch amphibian sign in triggered. Sign in task. Face glitch amphibian head on. Sign in reward. Blue reward. Holy. Feedback. It can be called the strongest alien in the early stage. Bad. Max's heart sank. He said word by word, I heard long ago, when the error Omnitrix first awakened, there were only 10 aliens. But as time goes by, the aliens will become more and more numerous, and stronger and stronger. In other words, the error Omnitrix is dynamically getting stronger. Give it some time, and it will be able to unlock Error X Superman. Hee. Glitch amphibian revealed a bloody, cruel smile. Boom. Dazzling lightning, far exceeding Chromastone's laser, bloomed from his body and blasted directly onto Chromastone. Chromastone only felt a flash before his eyes. Then he took flight directly and crashed beside the rust bucket. Although the current had almost no effect on him, the intense impact attached to the current made him growl in pain. Sizzle sizzle. Glitch amphibian raised his hands, emitting a large amount of electric light, the terrifying electric light condensing into a shockwave. He aimed this electric shockwave at Chromastone. I'm going to die. Chromastone's heart beat violently, the oppressive feeling of death making his whole body cold. He gritted his teeth with difficulty, not unable to move like the first time. Instead, he raised his hand and slowly placed it on the rust bucket. I remember, the rust bucket also has terrifying energy, right? Whoosh. Glitch amphibian waved his hands, and the electric shockwave blasted towards Chromastone. Chromastone, however, closed his eyes slightly. Whoosh. The hand he rested on the rust bucket bloomed with a dazzling luster. Then, he extended his other hand, blooming with a violent shockwave. The two shockwaves collided with each other, evenly matched. Glitch amphibian looked at Chromastone in astonishment, and even rage. Anyway, I have a system, aren't I more bugged than you? Chromastone revealed a reluctant smile, opened his eyes and said. Ding, sign in successful. Sign in reward is, upgrade. Sign in reward is, mode switching. As expected of a blue task, it exploded with 2 rewards in a row. A moment later, Chromastone was the first to weakly lower his hand. The rust bucket is out of energy. And Glitch amphibian also knelt on the ground with difficulty, staring at Chromastone with extreme unwillingness. Bang! Max swung the laser gun, hitting Glitch Amphibian's head hard with the butt of the gun. Glitch Amphibian's head just tilted slightly, but his eyes stared at Max grimly. Wishing he could tear him to pieces. Useless. Max's heart sank, he decisively threw the gun and ran to Chromastone's side. He looked at Gwen Tennyson again. Gwen Tennyson overcame her fear and walked over tremblingly. The two of them helped Chromastone up together, walked into the rust bucket, and threw Chromastone onto the sofa. Crack. The sofa made a breaking sound. Who? Grandpa, are we driving away? The car is probably out of energy. Chromastone stood up reluctantly, trying to dissuade Max. Max sat anxiously in the driver's seat. No matter how he stepped on the accelerator, the rust bucket just wouldn't move. He rarely cursed, and said powerlessly, "You have no stamina, I can't do anything about him, and the car won't move. Is there only a dead end? Maybe, there is still a way out. I'll take the rust bucket and run." Chromastone slowly raised his hand, silently chanting, "System, there is a reward called mode switching, can it switch aliens? Host. Every time you transform, as long as you silently chant in your heart, you can switch to other aliens, it will just cause a little burden on your genes." Burden is burden. Chromastone's eyes were firm, and he immediately silently chanted Upgrade's name. Following a bout of dizziness and nausea, his figure suddenly transformed. The tall, high-tech looking Upgrade appeared before the two of them. "It's too excited, forgot the name, anyway it's an alien that can help us." Max looked at this scene ecstatically. What surprised him was, Xiao Ran actually knew this alien, and could break the deadlock. Of the 36 stratagems, running away is the best one, the ancestors did not deceive me. Upgrade took a deep breath, and with a complex expression, covered the rust bucket with his body. The rust bucket instantly gained a layer of high-tech coat. Boom! With a roar, the rust bucket's speed instantly exploded out at an exaggerated level of several hundred. In place. Glitch Amphibian slowly got up, his eyes filled with terrifying killing intent. His figure also flickered with light, switching to another alien. That was a spherical alien covered in spikes and with a deep color. Glitch Cannonbolt. Upgrade controlled the rust bucket to fly out of the forest. But he could always feel that the error Omnitrix was still tracking them. Upgrade had to do his best to speed up, controlling the rust bucket to rush onto the highway. The highway was empty and pitch black, which actually allowed Upgrade to accelerate to his heart's content. As the rust bucket drove a few kilometers on the highway, Glitch Cannonbolt also rolled onto the highway, and the speed was getting faster and faster, crushing the road surface. A moment later, behind the rust bucket, Glitch Cannonbolt's figure appeared. Boom! Glitch Cannonbolt bounced hard again, his figure actually flew high into the air, flying over the rust bucket controlled by Upgrade, and landed in front. The rust bucket was thus forced to stop by Glitch Cannonbolt again. The great battle was on the verge of breaking out. There's no escaping this. Upgrade's body detached from the rust bucket, and it watched the Glitch Cannonbolt ahead with a solemn expression. Glitch Cannonbolt straightened its body and stared coldly at Upgrade. On its body, no system task was triggered. Whoosh! With a flash of light, Glitch Cannonbolt's figure underwent a sudden transformation. The system task arrived as expected. Ding! Glitch Way Big has triggered a check-in. Check-in task. Please strike Glitch Way Big hard and knock him down once. Check-in reward. Blue reward plus green reward. How the hell am I supposed to fight him? Upgrade's mouth opened slightly, and it looked up at the sky-high Glitch Way Big. All of its resistance lost its meaning at this moment. Glitch Way Big revealed a mocking smile and reached out to grab the rust bucket. He turned the rust bucket upside down, seemingly intending to shake the people inside out. But only a pile of pots and pans fell out, there was no sign of Gwen Tennyson or Max. Error Omnitrix, I really can't beat you. Upgrade felt a hint of pride and said triumphantly, but I saved Gwen and Grandpa. 2 minutes ago, it had dropped Max and Gwen Tennyson off somewhere and lured Error Omnitrix away alone. No matter how capable Error Omnitrix was, it had to protect its cousin and grandfather from Error Omnitrix's hands. Even if it was only for a short while. Glitch Way Big laughed in extreme anger and clenched his fist tightly. As he gripped it, the air itself seemed to crackle. Whoosh tilde. A sudden red light flashed on Upgrade's body, and it reverted to human form. Transformation time is up. Xiao Ran looked at the Omnitrix on his wrist in its cooling state and sighed inwardly. There's absolutely no chance left. Boom. Glitch Wei Big swung his fist, the heavy blow descending slowly and steadily, like a small mountain. Under this heavy blow, Xiao Ran felt the suffocating pressure of death approaching, facing it with a fearless resolve. Ding! The rest of the system has finished loading. Unlocked. Personal attribute panel. Unlocked. Check-in location. The system's pleasant voice suddenly rang out. It had actually finished loading all functions. I probably know what the personal attribute panel is. What is the check-in location system? Xiao Ran stared fixedly at the incoming heavy fist and asked as quickly as he could. Every once in a while, the system will open a check-in location for the host. The host must enter the check-in location to unlock more alien rewards from different worlds, which could be a Ben 10 parallel universe, or even other anime or movie worlds. Current check-in location, Ben 10 parallel universe. Travel time, 1 day. This check-in system is absolutely insane. This was the objective evaluation Xiao Ran gave the check-in system. He could actually go to other Ben 10 worlds to check in, get various check-in rewards, and even obtain DNA from other worlds. Perhaps, obtaining the DNA of Tiga, Groudon, or War Greymon would be a piece of cake. Send me there now. Xiao Ran spoke decisively, looking at Glitch Wei Big's fist getting closer and closer, not panicking in the slightest. Whoosh! His figure began to flicker rapidly, and his consciousness gradually blurred, as if he were undergoing a strange journey. And Glitch Wei Big's fist finally passed through Xiao Ran's phantom-like body and struck the road heavily. A road. It exploded instantly. Roar. Glitch Wei Big watched this scene with eyes splitting in anger, letting out a beast-like roar. This Xiao Ran. Why is he always impossible to kill? Bang. Xiao Ran's consciousness was still blurred, but he clearly felt his body fall onto a soft lawn. As his consciousness gradually cleared, what met his eyes was the intoxicating moonlight. Is this the parallel universe? Xiao Ran slowly looked around at the familiar dark woods. The place I'm in seems to be the very same woods from the summer camping trip. Ding! Travel complete. The time flow ratio between the current world and the main world is 2:1. 2:1. Xiao Ran's thoughts raced, and he judged. So, if I stay here for 1 day, it's equivalent to half a day passing in the original world. He would make good use of this 1 day. He only hoped that within half a day, Error Omnitrix wouldn't catch up to Grandpa and Gwen. Also, system, open my personal attribute panel. As soon as Xiao Ran spoke, a virtual light screen appeared on his retina. Host. Xiao Ran. Watch. Omnitrix mode switching. Skills. None. Abilities. None. Items. None. Aliens. Swampfire, Chromastone, upgrade. Current world. Ben 10 parallel universe. Holy, there are even skills, abilities, and items. Does that mean I can get all of these through check-ins? Xiao Ran widened his eyes, staring at his panel in astonishment. The system is simply awesome. Ah, I'm on fire. Not far away, a very familiar scream rang out, accompanied by flashes of fire. A fierce glint appeared in Xiao Ran's eyes, and he said, System, close the personal attribute panel. The attribute panel in front of him instantly vanished. Then, he lifted his feet and crept over. On the path outside the woods. A heat blast, covered in fire, with a nervous expression, was running around in a panic. He stopped again and looked at his hands strangely. I'm on fire, but it doesn't hurt, huh? After realizing he could control fire, Ben Tennyson decisively entered the mode of burning down the mountain. Ding! Heat blast has triggered a check-in. Check-in task. Please stop Ben Tennyson from using heat blast to burn down the mountain and destroy nature. Check-in reward. White reward. In the woods to the side, Xiao Ran crouched under a tree, a flash of eagerness instantly rising in his eyes. Although it was a white reward, even a small fly is still meat. And, I don't know why, but now when I see Heat Blast, I have an urge to beat him up. Xiao Ran raised his right wrist and decisively tapped the cooled-down Omnitrix. He turned the Omnitrix, selected Swampfire, and then slammed it down hard. Bang! Light bloomed on Xiao Ran's body, causing him to rapidly fuse with the alien DNA. Seems like something fun is happening, huh? Hee hee, take this fireball. Ben Tennyson turned his head, smiling as he looked toward the source of the light. He immediately shot a fireball backhanded, sending it flying straight toward the light. Bang! The fireball reached the light, but was blocked by an outstretched hand. Swampfire walked out of the light, exerted force with one hand, and crushed the fireball into pieces. Countless sparks bloomed, reflecting in his sharp gaze. This time, Heatblast won't have a chance to hurt me. Ben Tennyson revealed an expression as if he had seen a ghost, looking at Swampfire. Alien freak. Ben Tennyson screamed, frantically gathering fireball after fireball, violently throwing them at Swampfire. Fireballs cut through the air, surging toward Swampfire. Swampfire watched the fireballs, slowly spreading his arms and aiming at the blazing trees on both sides. He flicked his fingers gently. Bang! 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 Large trees bent to block the path of the fireballs, acting like gatekeepers. The flames exploded against the trees, colliding with the existing fire and canceling each other out perfectly. No matter how Ben Tennyson swung the fireballs, they were intercepted by the trees, making him attack the very fire he had created himself. I've used the abilities of both Wildvine and Heatblast. Now, let's combine them. Swampfire took a deep breath and slowly lifted his feet. PFF'd. Imperceptible cracks appeared on the soles of his feet, from which marsh gas emerged. The marsh gas was quickly ignited, forming a dazzling flame blast. This allowed Swampfire, much like Iron Man, to blast fire from his feet and soar rapidly into the high sky. Ben Tennyson looked up, staring dumbfounded at Swampfire in the air. The alien weirdo actually flew. Kid, do I look cool flying? Swampfire smirked and asked playfully. Cool. Ben Tennyson nodded without hesitation, looking full of admiration. Teach me. Sure. I'll teach you right now. Swampfire burst into flames and dove toward Ben Tennyson like a fighter jet. Then, he extended his hands and, with lightning speed, scooped up Ben Tennyson. He carried Ben Tennyson with him, soaring above the forest. Whoa. Hey, why am I being held like this? Ben Tennyson shouted excitedly at first, looking down at the forest. But gradually, his body couldn't move, he had been firmly locked in place by Swampfire. Don't move around. I'm taking you out of the forest so you don't start a wildfire. Swampfire said bluntly, carrying Ben Tennyson out of the forest and arriving above a river. The two landed one after another on the riverbank. Swampfire landed on the ground stylishly, in a superhero pose. Ben Tennyson fell flat on his back, rubbing his head. Ow, that hurts. Are you trying to kill me? Kill you. Hearing the familiar words, Swampfire retorted subconsciously. I don't want to get scolded by Mom. At most, I'd just beat you up in secret. What? Ben Tennyson looked at him, full of confusion. Swampfire remained silent, lowering his head with a heavy heart. Previously, he had been constantly pursued by the Error Omnitrix, facing the pressure of survival. Until now, the pressure of survival was temporarily gone. He thought of Ben, his best friend, who was still deep in the vortex. He had to change the regrets of the Error Omnitrix's original story, turn the tide, and rewrite the tragic life of his good buddy, Ben Tennyson. Ben Tennyson slowly sat down beside Swampfire and smiled. I think you have something on your mind. It's nothing. Swampfire glanced at Ben Tennyson and asked a rhetorical question. I just lectured you, and you still want to help me. You took me flying, so we're even. Besides, I, Ben Tennyson, am not someone who holds grudges. Ben Tennyson wiped his nose and said with a smile. Swampfire simply patted Ben Tennyson on the shoulder and whispered, Ben, just leave it to me. Ding, check-in successful. Check-in reward. Enhancement Opportunity X1. Enhancement Opportunity. The host's chosen alien can undergo one enhancement to awaken stronger abilities. Swampfire was startled. The check-in reward had arrived. He could actually enhance any of his aliens. I'm not sure who to enhance right now, I'll think about it later. After pondering for a while, Swampfire decided to keep the reward for now. At this moment, view. Red light emerged from Ben Tennyson's body, and immediately after, he turned back into his child form. Hey, buddy, I'll turn into another alien and see if I can help you. Ben Tennyson immediately sat cross-legged and started fiddling with the Omnitrix on his left wrist. Because the Omnitrix was in cooldown mode, he even picked up a twig, preparing to pry it open. Hey, don't mess with the Omnitrix, let me tell you how to use it. Swampfire quickly stopped Ben Tennyson and patiently explained the basic rules of the Omnitrix. After he finished, "How do you know all this? Never mind." Ben Tennyson had just asked, then shut his mouth. With a flash of light, Swampfire also transformed into Xiao Ran, revealing the Omnitrix on his wrist, which was also in cooldown. "Let me introduce myself." Xiao Ran smiled, "My name is Xiao Ran." Not long after the two introduced themselves, Gwen Tennyson found them. Ben Tennyson simply took Xiao Ran to find Gwen Tennyson, and the three of them returned to the campsite together. Along the way, Gwen Tennyson was much more observant and suspicious of Xiao Ran's identity. But every time, Xiao Ran brushed her off. When they reached the campsite, Gwen Tennyson ran to Max to complain, and only then did Max walk over with concern. "Your name is Xiao Ran." Max squatted down in confusion, looking at Xiao Ran eye to eye. "Where are your parents? Why did you come back with Ben?" "Mr. Max." Xiao Ran lowered his voice and spoke softly to Max. He occasionally lifted the Omnitrix on his wrist and pointed at Ben Tennyson, who was messing around with his own Omnitrix. Gradually, Max looked surprised and said, "You are Azimuth's human assistant, Xiao Ran. You're here to assist Ben." "Yes, this watch is my proof." Xiao Ran waved the Omnitrix on his wrist confidently and affirmed, "Also, when I arrived on Earth, I saw Vilgax's ship. I think he will be a threat to Ben." To deepen Max's trust in him, he sold out this important piece of information. "If this is true, then I'll leave it to you, Mr. Xiao Ran, to help Ben Tennyson well." Although Max was still a bit suspicious, for the sake of the Omnitrix, he was still polite. Gwen Tennyson walked over again, feeling puzzled. "Grandpa. What's the deal with this Xiao Ran?" Max patted Gwen Tennyson on the shoulder and said instead, "Gwen, don't call him Xiao Ran in the future, call him Mr. Xiao Ran. This person is suspected to be Azimuth's assistant. Better be polite." "Huh. Call him Mr." Gwen Tennyson's clear eyes widened, and she looked at Xiao Ran in disbelief. Xiao Ran smiled, put his hands behind his head, and said, "Gwen, just call me Xiao Ran, no need to be so polite." Whoosh! A flash of light echoed from not far away, accompanied by the smell of body odor from a large beast, drifting in with the wind. The three slowly turned their heads and saw a scene that made their blood pressure skyrocket. An orange beast was rummaging around, experimenting with its abilities. "Ben is messing with the Omnitrix again." Xiao Ran covered his face, looking somewhat helpless. "Mess around if you want. Why didn't it trigger a check-in reward?" "Mr. Xiao Ran, I'll go educate him." Max sighed and walked toward Ben Tennyson. "Ding! Vilgax's battle robots have triggered a check-in. Check-in task. Please slay all the small robots and crush them into smithereens. Check-in reward. Green reward. Small robots." Xiao Ran's expression immediately turned grave as he looked up at the sky. High in the sky, robots resembling spiders were flying toward Ben Tennyson. Their eyes were filled with terrifying laser beams. Roar! Ben Tennyson immediately looked up. Although he lacked eyes, he used his sensory abilities to detect the incoming robots. The small robots moved around Ben Tennyson and unleashed volleys of laser beams. This caught Ben Tennyson off guard, forcing him to dodge frantically. A few times, the laser beams even grazed his body. "Grandpa, Dweeb seems to be in trouble." Gwen Tennyson looked at Max nervously. Max patted Gwen Tennyson's shoulder gently, then looked at Xiao Ran with unwavering trust. "Mr. Xiao Ran, I'm counting on you." Coming right up, Xiao Ran raised his wrist, tapped the Omnitrix, and without hesitation, selected Chromastone, the alien capable of absorbing energy. Swoosh! With a flash of light, Chromastone's figure suddenly appeared. Meanwhile, a small robot, drawn by the flashing light, turned its aim toward Chromastone. Chromastone wore a smile. He raised his finger and beckoned to the small robot. Bang! A small robot immediately fired a laser beam, not out of provocation, of course, but because it identified Xiao Ran as an enemy. Chromastone spread his palm and raised one hand. He grabbed the incoming laser beam and shoved it fiercely into his own body. Quote? Quote. The small robot felt its energy rapidly dissipating and could find no countermeasure. Now, I'm returning this to you. Chromastone raised his other hand, unleashing an even more terrifying laser blast. The blast engulfed the small robot's body, instantly shattering it into countless fragments. First kill. The remaining small robots immediately turned around and stared at Chromastone in unison. They detected that this alien not only possessed an Omnitrix signal, but his signal and energy intensity were even more terrifying. Come at me together. Chromastone said with a provocative smile. Bang bang bang. All the small robots fired laser beams simultaneously, and countless blasts slammed into Chromastone. Chromastone's body swayed violently, forcing him to raise both hands to withstand the energy fluctuations. The energy fluctuations gradually began to dim. Give me time, and I'll drain you all dry. Chromastone methodically absorbed the massive amount of energy, filling his body bit by bit. Roar. A beastly roar echoed as Ben Tennyson, attempting to help Xiao Ran out of his predicament, began attacking the small robots. Oh no. Chromastone was stunned. The system mission required him to take down all the small robots. He couldn't let his teammate steal his kills. Otherwise, the green reward would be gone. Chromastone made a swift decision. System, grant the enhancement opportunity to Chromastone. You have to spend money to make money. Ding, enhancement successful. Chromastone's energy conversion has been enhanced to Energy Mage. Chromastone felt every cell in his body rejoicing, and his control over the energy within him reached an exaggerated level. It was as if he could control energy with a single thought. With this in mind, he slowly looked toward Ben Tennyson. Ben Tennyson was dashing, about to pounce on a small robot. Bang! A laser shockwave suddenly tore through the air, piercing straight through that small robot. The small robot collapsed heavily onto the ground and exploded with a boom. Why does this feel like laser vision? Ben Tennyson was stunned as he sensed all this, searching for the source of the heat. Chromastone. His eyes shimmered with a faint light, as if Homelander had possessed him, and a hint of excitement appeared on his face. Is this what it feels like to be Superman? Bang! Chromastone lifted his head again, his eyes unleashing laser beams that blasted through another small robot. Whether it was the speed at which he fired lasers or the intensity of the laser beams, both were vastly stronger than before. As the third small robot exploded, the remaining small robots were no match for Chromastone. Chromastone absorbed the remaining light with one hand and raised the other. Now, let me test the full capabilities of the Energy Mage. His hand radiated dazzling laser beams. The laser beams weren't released immediately, instead, they condensed into a dark arrow. Chromastone's finger gently pushed the dark arrow. Swoosh! The arrow tore through the air and instantly pierced the skull of a small robot. Chromastone flicked his finger. The arrow turned and flew, instantly piercing through all the remaining small robots. In less than 3 seconds, the arrow dissipated. The remaining 3 small robots collapsed to the ground in unison. Their heads were blown open, and their core components were completely destroyed. Is this Azimuth's assistant able to push another species to this level? Max stared at Chromastone, dumbfounded, and was immediately filled with awe. Ben Tennyson stood with his mouth agape, looking toward Chromastone. Xiao Ran, that guy, is practically Superman. At this moment, Gwen Tennyson understood, and she looked at Chromastone with awe. So, this is the reason Grandpa respects him. Phew. Chromastone slowly lowered his hands, releasing lasers from them while molding them into different shapes. System enhancement is truly terrifying. The original energy conversion was a simple and crude way of absorbing others' energy and converting it into his own laser energy. After the system enhancement, his absorption speed increased significantly, and his control over energy improved by a huge margin. He could even mold energy into different shapes, rather than being limited to just laser beams. It really lived up to the system's descriptor. Energy Mage. It's a pity it only randomly enhanced one ability. If all abilities were enhanced, I'd go straight to kill the error Omnitrix. Chromastone sighed with regret, his tone tinged with a hint of greed. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward. Jetray. Jetray. Chromastone looked delighted and said, with this, I have a professional flying alien hero. No need to make Swampfire waste effort flying anymore. Jetray was also the alien that left the deepest impression on Xiao Ran. Why was the impression so deep? Because when he was a child, he always thought Jetray was pronounced Gang Ray. Roar roar. Wild Mutt jumped in front of Chromastone and roared anxiously. Then, he performed a gesture of asking to be an apprentice, eager to learn a trick or two from Xiao Ran. In contrast to the harmony here, in outer space near Earth, inside a massive spaceship. Android robots arrived at the spaceship's hull one after another, coldly reporting intelligence. Report, Lord Vilgax, according to device detection, there are 2 Omnitrix signals. What do you mean? A bulky alien with a tentacled head, exuding an imposing aura, slowly rose from his throne. There are 2 Omnitrixes. What a joke, we saw with our own eyes that only one fell to Earth. Lord Vilgax, the data cannot be wrong. The robotic subordinates were loyal, but their rigid answers gave Vilgax a headache. Whatever. Vilgax's eyes were calm as he pointed toward Earth. Assemble the mechanical army and launch an invasion of Earth immediately. I want to see for myself exactly how many Omnitrixes there are. Hey, Xiao Ran, those moves you pulled off just now were way too cool. Even after the transformation ended, Ben Tennyson, still feeling exhilarated, couldn't stop asking Xiao Ran questions. Xiao Ran looked at Ben Tennyson's eager expression, helpless yet concerned. Alright, Ben Tilda, remember, don't mess around with the Omnitrix in the future, and definitely don't try to force miracles, and you'll be able to become just like me. Awesome, believe me. Ben Tennyson gave a thumbs up, revealing his gleaming teeth. Oh right, Xiao Ran. Max suddenly remembered something and turned to walk toward the rust bucket. I recall you haven't had dinner yet, right? I haven't indeed. Mr. Max, please bring me some more food. Xiao Ran swallowed, his appetite instantly piqued. Xiao Ran, be careful. Grandpa won't serve anything good. Ben Tennyson and Gwen Tennyson both warned with cautious expressions. Until Max brought over a bowl of wriggling bugs and placed them in front of Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran actually raised his hands and, like a starving tiger pouncing on prey, began devouring the bugs frantically. Ben Tennyson watched this scene, dumbfounded. Grandpa, where is Xiao Ran from? You might as well go and open a fast food restaurant at his place. I'd rather believe he's an alien. Gwen Tennyson wiped the cold sweat from her forehead, unable to even bear looking. In reality, Xiao Ran was just too hungry to the point of exploding. The various extreme events of this night had left him famished, desperately in need of calorie replenishment. After wolfing down the food, Xiao Ran put down the gleaming plate, leaving only Max in front of him. If that's not enough, there's more. Max said with a smile, his tone carrying a hint of eagerness. That's enough. Xiao Ran waved his hand and looked around. Are Ben and Gwen asleep? Max nodded and asked. Yeah. If you're tired, I can add a blanket to the passenger seat for you to rest. That's good. Xiao Ran had just started to speak. Ding! Legendary plumber Max Tennyson has triggered a check-in. Check-in task. Please spar with Max Tennyson in combat skills, and have him exchange moves with you. Check-in reward. White tier reward. Max's sturdy body shone with a white radiance, like the light of an angel. Alright then. Xiao Ran changed the subject, his eyes burning with intensity, but before going to sleep, I have a small request that I need you to fulfill. Max felt a bit creeped out by the stare and asked oddly, what request? I've heard that you are a legendary plumber, so I want to spar with you in combat skills. Xiao Ran jumped out of his chair, walked to the open space nearby, and said impatiently. Ah. Max looked at Xiao Ran's posture, which was full of openings, and said helplessly, Mr. Xiao Ran, you have no foundation in combat, nor do you have the core strength, we can't spar. Mr. Max, just consider it a thank you for me helping Ben, and spar with me. Xiao Ran had no choice but to emphasize it again, bringing up social etiquette. To be honest, I was also fired up watching tonight. Given the situation, Max actually slowly took off his floral shirt. Underneath his floral shirt, his seemingly bloated body was actually fat wrapped around muscle, full of impact. He stood in front of Xiao Ran like a brown bear. We can start. Xiao Ran took a deep breath, looking at Max before him. He had the sense of déjà vu of facing the error Omnitrix after transforming. You make the first move. Max said. Before he finished speaking, Xiao Ran unceremoniously swung his fist, striking with all his might toward Max's abdomen. Bang! Max just waved his hand landing right above Xiao Ran's wrist, clamping it tightly. I can't move, it feels like being clamped by iron pliers. Xiao Ran twisted his wrist in shock, but couldn't break free no matter what, and his fist couldn't move forward. Plumber martial arts has three essential elements: observe, block, and subdue. Max guided him patiently, and after finishing, he suddenly crouched and lifted. Xiao Ran looked confused, only feeling his body instantly lift off, and he appeared on Max's shoulder. Just like this, if I do a shoulder throw, you're done for. Max easily carried Xiao Ran on his shoulder and prepared to put him down. It's not over yet. Since it's a spar, there must be a winner and a loser, until one side completely admits defeat. Xiao Ran took a deep breath and said decisively. He didn't know how the system defined sparring, but as long as he had strength, he would continue. It seems you really want to learn. Max slowly put Xiao Ran down, praising him. The moment Xiao Ran was put down, his vision blurred, and Max's fist suddenly stopped in front of him. He was stunned for a full few seconds before swinging his fist to counterattack. Time passed minute by minute. Throughout the process, Max was ravaging Xiao Ran in a way that left him unscathed. Xiao Ran's combat skills did not improve, but his willpower was honed. Xiao Ran's combat talent can be said to be almost zero. However, I do quite appreciate his attitude. Max was dripping with sweat, subduing Xiao Ran time and time again, and watching Xiao Ran get up time and time again. Although he kept losing, every time he got up, his fear of failure would decrease, and his mentality would become more stable. Even if the opponent was the error Omnitrix, having knocked him down, Xiao Ran could still calmly get up and counterattack. Huff, huff, huff. Watching Xiao Ran get up again and again, Max couldn't help but bend over, wiping his sweat. No more. Xiao Ran, if you get up again, it'll be elder abuse. He couldn't take it anymore. Xiao Ran panted heavily, bracing his exhausted body. Does this count as the end? Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward is Plumber Martial Arts. He revealed a tired yet satisfied smile. The reward was in hand. Swish, swish, swish. Countless combat scenes began to flash in Xiao Ran's mind, as if he had experienced them personally, engraved into his mind. Within seconds, he had personally experienced countless battles, transforming into a master of plumber martial arts. I'm going to take a shower and rest, you keep watch. Max wiped his sweat and said. Swish. Xiao Ran threw another punch, an unremarkable punch straight at Max's face. Max immediately observed the opening and reached out to grab Xiao Ran's wrist. However, as if foreseeing it, Xiao Ran used Max's hand, jumped up, and delivered a flying kick straight to Max's chest. Its movements were so fluid, and the reaction so swift, that it caught Max off guard. This kick stopped right in front of Max's chest. Mr. Max, thank you for sparring with me. Xiao Ran put his foot down, released his hand, and smiled contentedly. It's okay. Max returned to the rust bucket in a daze, absent-minded, and took a shower and went to sleep in a stupor. He was completely in the state of having his worldview shattered. Xiao Ran is simply a combat monster. Before falling asleep, Max, having realized it, said in shock. Outside. System, open personal list. Host, Xiao Ran, hard like a rock watch. Omnitrix mode switched skills. Plumber martial arts abilities. None items. None aliens. Swampfire, Chromastone, Energy Mage, Upgrade, Jetray. World. Ben 10 Parallel Universe. Xiao Ran looked at the lines of text and was surprised. Hard like a rock, does this mean that when I face failure, I can remain unmoved? His mentality had been forged. Get some rest early, waiting to properly beat the hell out of the error Omnitrix. After browsing, Xiao Ran closed the personal list, returned to the rust bucket, and fell asleep in the passenger seat. By the passenger seat window, the morning's white light shone onto Xiao Ran's sleeping face, and he subconsciously reached out to block the light. Is it daytime already? Xiao Ran opened his eyes groggily, squinting as he looked out the window. The campsite outside was illuminated by a dazzling white light, making it clearly visible, but this radiance was somewhat different from sunlight. Xiao Ran slowly lifted his head and looked toward the sky. In the sky, a massive, colossal spaceship, like a giant beast, blotted out the sun. The hatch beneath the spaceship opened wide, releasing a light as bright as day and deploying small robots one after another. A swarm of machines. Vilgax is here. Xiao Ran's sleepiness vanished instantly, and he sat up abruptly. Following his shout, the others woke up as well. Whoa, that's so cool, a giant spaceship from outer space. Ben Tennyson was quite excited, calling out toward the spaceship outside the window. That's Vilgax's ship. Vilgax is the one commanding those mechanical freaks. Max said, bracing himself as if facing a great enemy, and hurriedly fastened his seatbelt. Everyone, get ready to run. Clearly, he did not believe they could stand against Vilgax. Mr. Max. I said before, I'm going to protect Ben Tennyson. A smile slowly spread across the corners of Xiao Ran's mouth as he walked to the main door. Protect. Of course, but let's hide for a few days first, then you and Ben Tennyson can figure out how to deal with Vilgax. Max looked at Xiao Ran, puzzled. A few days probably won't work, it has to be today. Xiao Ran slammed his hand down on the Omnitrix and immediately opened the rust bucket's door. The light illuminated his alien form, making him seem like a god. The words, protect Ben Tennyson, were not just empty pleasantries, they were a promise to his brother. So, let's just get it done. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A full 20 or 30 small robots slowly flew toward the rust bucket. They watched as the rust bucket's door opened. A blood-red, winged creature stepped out. Ding! Vilgax's mechanical army check-in triggered. Check-in task. Vilgax has dispatched all his small robots, a total of 23 units. Please annihilate them all in one go. Check-in reward. Green tier reward. My assessment is, it's easier than fighting the error Omnitrix. Jetray revealed a smile, let out a sharp sound, and gently waved his hands. Bang! Accompanied by a piercing sonic boom, he flew out at supersonic speeds, with afterimages trailing behind him. After capturing the Omnitrix signal, the small robots immediately locked onto him. They locked onto Jetray's afterimages. They struggled to lock onto Jetray's actual body. Bang! Jetray moved in front of a small robot. He curled his tail, which released a ray, and like a battle axe, it split the robot in two. Seeing this, the remaining small robots began attacking him frantically. 3 elements: observe, block, subdue. Jetray held his breath, observing the incoming light waves while flying at supersonic speeds. He first wove through the light waves, trying his best to dodge them. Finally, Jetray arrived in front of another small robot and split it in two with his tail. The small robots repeated their old trick, attacking him frantically whenever he appeared. Just like that, a few minutes passed. Jetray had slain 7 small robots without a scratch. But there were still 16 robots left on the field, surrounding and attacking Jetray. This time, Jetray focused only on dodging and did not rush to attack. Inside the large spaceship, Vilgax stood by the bottom hatch, watching Jetray below, and revealed a smile. There is indeed a second Omnitrix, and its performance is extremely strong. But he's about to be worn down by my mechanical army. No matter how strong you are, Jetray, you cannot possibly slay all the small robots within 10 minutes. Your performance capability won't allow it. By now, this Earthling must be in a complete panic, Vilgax thought smugly. But at this moment, Jetray was weaving through the laser waves, his eyes full of composure, thinking calmly. Logically, using plumber martial arts, it shouldn't take this long for Jetray to take out the robots. Did something go wrong somewhere? Even as his transformation time was decreasing, he continued to dodge while thinking calmly. His mindset was as firm as a rock. Xiao Ran needs help, he doesn't even have the power to fight back anymore. Ben Tennyson impatiently raised his wrist. Wait a little longer. Max watched Jetray intently. He might be thinking, give him some time. He doesn't seem like the type to hide and admit defeat. He can still think calmly in this situation. Gwen Tennyson was astonished. Whoosh. Just at this moment, Jetray moved at an extremely fast speed. He observed the positions of the small robots and flew straight toward them. The small robots released laser waves at him as usual, wanting to delay his transformation time. This time, Jetray's gaze was calm, and he charged toward the laser waves as if facing danger head-on. At the very moment the laser waves were about to hit his body, he made a reaction that could be called supersonic, constantly tilting his body, narrowly dodging every single laser wave. It was simply dancing on the tip of a knife. Bang! Then, Jetray at full speed, like lightning, smashed directly through a small robot. This time, Jetray paused in midair, the corners of his mouth lifting. It took 4 seconds to kill one small robot. He thought about it carefully. Humans need to observe, dodge, and finally counterattack to ensure safety. Jetray doesn't need to dodge specifically to be safe. Because even in the most dangerous moments, he can sidestep using his heaven-defying sonic ability. So, he only needs to do 2 things. Find where the enemy is. Rush over and kill them. Bang, bang, bang. Jetray began to shuttle through the enemy's attacks like lightning, finally smashing the small robots into pieces one by one. Plumber martial arts had practically transformed into the Jetray speed kill technique in his hands. Every small robot tried to attack Jetray with laser waves. But their attacks were either dodged by Jetray simply tilting his body, or Jetray would just accelerate and smash the attacking small robot to death. It seems Xiao Ran's mindset is truly excellent. Max gently patted his chest, clearly relieved. My special training last night actually had such a big effect on him. Inside the spaceship, Lord Vilgax. Within 1 minute, the remaining small robots have been almost completely wiped out. The mechanical subordinates all looked at Vilgax and said, I know. It seems I will have to take action myself. Vilgax was silent for a moment, nodded, and turned to walk into the depths of the spaceship. After walking a few steps, he suddenly turned around, sprinted to the spaceship exit, and leapt down toward the ground. As Vilgax's figure fell rapidly, a red streak of lightning brushed past him, and just happened to smash the last small robot. Jetray speed kill technique, perfect. Jetray panted slightly, hovering in midair, and gritted his teeth as he pulled out a mechanical part that had accidentally pierced his body. The small robots, all taken care of. Ding, check-in successful. Check-in reward is, Homungosaur. Homungosaur. This is the powerful asset granted to Xiao Ran for close quarters combat. Bang. At this moment, a loud noise came from the ground. Jetray looked down abruptly, his pupils shrinking suddenly. A freak with a tentacle head was standing on the cracked ground, approaching the rust bucket. The ruler of the galaxy, Vilgax. Tennyson. Vilgax looked at Max inside the rust bucket, a mocking expression curling on his face. The last time we met, you were still a capable young man. Now, you've grown old and decrepit. Even if I am old, I can still outrun you. Max grabbed the steering wheel, placed his foot on the accelerator, and prepared to leave. Just then, Ben Tennyson walked to the car door. As he pushed it open, he said slowly, Grandpa, don't drive. I'm going down to deal with him. We have to go, Ben. Get back in your seat. Max turned his head to look at Ben Tennyson in disbelief, urging him. Xiao Ran is still out there. If we drive off, what happens to him? The kind of person I am is, if he has my back, I have his. Ben Tennyson resolutely stepped out of the rust bucket and slammed the door shut behind him. Ben. Dweeb. Max and Gwen Tennyson looked anxiously at Ben Tennyson, who had stepped out of the rust bucket. That slender figure seemed as heroic as a giant at this moment. Bam! Ben Tennyson slammed down on the raised Omnitrix screen. His body flashed with light, transforming into a warrior made entirely of crystals. Diamond Head. You are just as much of an idiot as the other Tennyson. Vilgax looked at Ben Tennyson, mocking him calmly. The next second, both figures instantly took a step, collided, and began trading punches. In almost an instant, Ben Tennyson found himself being pummeled by Vilgax. This was only his 3rd time using the Omnitrix, he couldn't even manage to utilize its abilities. Jetray hovered in midair, watching the tragedy on the ground, his heart feeling exceptionally heavy. Ben, I only have 1 minute of transformation time left. How can I help you without dragging you down? Whether it was the Error Omnitrix universe or the Ben of this universe, both loved to play the hero. But that was exactly why he needed his childhood friend, Xiao Ran, to step up and help. How could he help Ben? You've lost. Vilgax stepped on Ben Tennyson, pinning him to the ground, and excitedly grabbed the latter's head. Once I take you to the ship, I'll dig out your hand. The ship. Jetray realized it in an instant and suddenly looked up at the ship. Whoosh! Veins popped out on his face, his eyes resolute, and he blasted toward the top of the ship at full speed. What is he doing? On the ground, Vilgax, Max, and the others heard a sound in the sky and all looked at Jetray in astonishment. They could hardly believe the scene before them, it was like something out of a sci-fi movie. Jetray accelerated all the way. Bam! With a loud bang, the lightning-fast Jetray crashed through the entrance at the bottom of the giant ship, smashing the mechanical creeps that stood in his way. Just a few seconds later, the giant ship plummeted straight toward the lake on the side of the ground. A crash. Lord Vilgax, the ship is about to be destroyed. This alien has taken control of the console. Inside the ship, all the mechanical minions looked at the ship's console in disbelief. The console had already been covered by upgrade, controlling the operating logic of the entire ship. They couldn't understand, was this alien trying to commit suicide? Half a minute left. Upgrade's figure suddenly popped out, transforming into Swampfire. He leaned against the console, dizzy and rubbing his head, and gave a dashing smile. I won't die anyway, but for you guys, it's hard to say. Countless mechanical minions lunged over, but it was too late to change the program Upgrade had set. No. Vilgax threw Diamondhead aside and rushed into the distance in a rage. He watched helplessly. The giant ship tore through the sky, leaving a spectacular trail, and crashed diagonally into the mountains and rivers, causing a massive mushroom cloud impact and a violent explosion. The blast wave was like a nuclear explosion, sweeping across the entire forest in all directions, including grazing Max and the others. Whoosh! As for Vilgax, he ran into the explosion and was covered by the sea of fire. Grandpa, is Xiao Ran still alive? Gwen Tennyson asked, her voice trembling. The entire scene of the nuclear explosion had left her weak with fear. Even Max was trying his best to calm his emotions. I only know that Vilgax is going to go insane. The painstaking efforts Vilgax had poured in over countless years had been blown up by Xiao Ran single-handedly. Bam! Bam! Diamondhead did not hesitate, hurriedly taking steps and rushing toward the sea of fire in the distance. Seeing this, Max hurriedly drove the rust bucket to follow close behind. When the person in the car arrived at the edge of the sea of fire, Max quickly got out of the car and looked at Diamondhead. Ben, have you kept track of your transformation time? I have. I must save. Vilgax is out. Diamondhead had just lifted its foot, answering firmly, when its gaze suddenly changed. From the sea of fire, a looming, massive figure walked out. Even the raging fire could not conceal his imposing body. How did Vilgax get taller and stronger? Ben Tennyson's voice was vigilant, filled with confusion. Because it's me. A creature with a yellowish-brown body, resembling a humanoid tyrannosaur, slowly walked out of the sea of fire. Because of the high temperature, his skin had been burned to a bright yellow, but it hadn't been charred. The dignified king of durability, Humungosaur. Xiao Ran. Max and Ben Tennyson spoke with extreme excitement, looking at Humungosaur with wild joy. Bam! Humungosaur's knees went soft, and he knelt on the ground, a dazzling red light bursting from his body. I need to rest for a while, I feel terrible. Xiao Ran held his head, feeling dizzy as if he were carsick, wanting to vomit but unable to. He had first used Swampfire to endure a wave of lethal damage, then used Humungosaur to move the ship's wreckage and walk out of the sea of fire. This high-intensity transformation had caused a reaction in Xiao Ran's body, he couldn't quite take it anymore. It's okay now, Xiao Ran. Ben Tennyson and Max walked quickly to Xiao Ran's side, supporting him on either side, and carefully helped Xiao Ran up. Xiao Ran endured the discomfort, and with the help of Ben Tennyson and Max, walked step by step toward the rust bucket. However, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of something, his astonished gaze falling on the sea of fire. Vilgax is coming. From within the sea of fire came wisps of deep blue radiance. Ding! Vilgax has triggered a check-in. Check-in task. Vilgax burned, insane, rampage, is walking out of the sea of fire, please slay him. Check-in reward. Blue reward. Vilgax, carrying his own check-in task, was coming. Xiao Ran could also clearly feel, As he became stronger, the difficulty of the check-in tasks would also increase. This task was incomparably more difficult than the glitch amphibian task. Vilgax. Who is Vilgax? Who am I? I will kill you all. A charred, black figure resembling a demon from hell walked out. He stared at them with blood-red eyes, roaring heart-wrenchingly, his tone absolutely insane. Just then, Ben Tennyson also reverted to his normal form. Because he didn't have enough strength, Xiao Ran even accidentally knocked him to the ground. Both of them were completely out of energy. Vilgax strode toward the two of them, panting heavily. Bam! Max took off his outer garment, and the garment, like a battle axe, fiercely struck Vilgax, drawing the latter's attention. He moved forward, his calm gaze sharp, his muscles bulging. Vilgax, didn't you think I was old? Come and try me. Tennyson, I'll slaughter you first. Vilgax, never forgetting his grudge against Max, roared as he swung his fist, hammering toward Max. Watching Vilgax approach, Max first predicted where the fist would land, then skillfully dodged it. At the same time, he gathered strength in his fist, preparing to counterattack Vilgax. Bang! But Vilgax's fist was faster, landing a critical hit directly on Max's body before he could fully dodge. I really am getting old. Back in my younger days, I would have dodged that. Max's expression was stunned. His body slammed heavily against the rust bucket, then rolled several times on the ground, his muscles aching so much he couldn't even get up. With just one move, he had lost to Vilgax. Your turn. Vilgax slowly looked toward Ben Tennyson and Xiao Ran, striding toward them. Ben Tennyson was panicking, constantly backing away. Calm down, think carefully. I only have one way to deal with Vilgax. Xiao Ran's composure was like a rock, he could still calmly rush toward the rust bucket. After he climbed onto the rust bucket, Vilgax arrived in front of Ben Tennyson first, reaching out to grab his neck, kill you, and take yours. Bang! A wave of energy struck Vilgax's cheek, instantly knocking him flying. Hey! Xiao Ran slowly walked down from the rust bucket, struggling to carry a laser gun with both hands, and said coldly, Tentacle head, I'll use this laser gun to turn you into takoyaki. You, how did you know? Max looked at Xiao Ran with a stunned expression, as if he had seen a ghost. Along the way, he had never had the chance to get the laser gun. Yet Xiao Ran had gotten to it first. He didn't just know where the laser gun was, he even knew how to use it. Xiao Ran spoke vaguely, I saw it when I transformed into an alien earlier. In reality, in his world, Max had put on his plumber gear and grabbed the laser gun right in front of him. That was how he found the laser gun in the same location. You. Vilgax slowly climbed up, cursing angrily. Bang! Bang! Xiao Ran remained expressionless, continuously pulling the trigger, sending energy blasts that knocked Vilgax over. While knocking Vilgax back, he kept a close eye on the cooling down Omnitrix. Why is it still cooling down? Is the time really that long? You're courting death. Vilgax was forced back into the woods, he suddenly turned around, furiously uprooting a large tree. Immediately, he threw the large tree directly at Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran's expression turned ugly, he decisively tossed aside the heavy laser gun and dove forward with all his might. Boom! The large tree slammed heavily into the ground where he had been standing, kicking up a huge cloud of dust. Cough! Cough! Xiao Ran had to remain lying on the ground, covering his mouth and nose, coughing continuously. Everything is settled. Vilgax wore a crazed smile. He picked up a rock with one hand, aiming directly at the heads of Max, Xiao Ran, and the others. This time, no one could stop him. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Ah! Accompanied by the roar of an engine, Gwen Tennyson screamed as she slammed on the accelerator, driving the rust bucket over and crashing into him hard. The rust bucket instantly slammed into Vilgax, sending him flying as if it were going to send him to another dimension. The vehicle itself also braked urgently, stopping in place. I'm an honor student who doesn't even dare to disobey my teachers, and I actually drove a car to hit someone. Gwen Tennyson walked down from the rust bucket in a daze, sounding somewhat broken. Gwen, well done. You didn't hit a person, you hit a monster. Max steadied himself against the car body, walked step by step to Gwen's side, and encouraged her. This caused Gwen's mood to gradually improve. Intel. Vilgax lifted his feet and strode over, completely unscathed. His face was completely twisted, his eyes filled with malice. Tonight, he, the dignified overlord of the galaxy, had been beaten up in turns by a group of people. The damage was minimal, but the insult was immense. I want all the Tennysons to die. Vilgax arrived in front of Max, who was shielding Gwen, and raised his claw to viciously tear at Max's body. A tough, powerful hand covered in scales blocked Vilgax's claw. Clang! Vilgax's claw tore heavily against the large hand, but couldn't do anything to its owner. In terms of strength, he was slightly inferior. Hey, Vilgax! Homungosaur slowly clenched his fist, aiming at Vilgax's face. This time, it's not some laser gun or a truck hitting you, it's Homungosaur, here to beat you up. Boom! His punch landed a critical hit on Vilgax's face. Vilgax's two eyeballs bulged outward as if they were about to explode, his features twisted for a moment, and his body was knocked heavily backward. This punch dealt true damage to Vilgax. Xiao ran. That's great. Seeing this, Max completely relaxed and dragged Gwen into the car. Gwen followed Max closely, looking at Homungosaur's back with great excitement. She was no longer afraid of Xiao Ran. Instead, she admired this great hero. Crack! Vilgax steadied his feet and used his hand to viciously snap his twisted face back into place. Then he crazily extended his claws, slashing at Homungosaur with extreme speed. Observe, dodge. Homungosaur watched the claw, twisted his body, and dodged Vilgax's strike with extreme ease. At the same time, his uppercut-like fist slammed heavily into Vilgax's abdomen. Hoo-ah! Vilgax spat out a large amount of blood, his eyes becoming dazed. It seemed he wasn't looking at Homungosaur, but an alien version of Max. Grandpa Max. Plumber martial arts, in my alien form, has infinite possibilities. Homungosaur firmly clenched his fist, pressing the attack against Vilgax. This blue reward. He was determined to get it today. Not far away. Ben Tennyson stood there, also raising his wrist, his expression carrying a hint of boredom. I don't like doing two-on-one fights. Tentacle head, hang in there, once you survive Xiao Ran, I'll be the one to beat you up. Whoosh! Whoosh! Vilgax struggled to maintain consciousness, continuously slashing at Homungosaur with his claws, but Homungosaur dodged every single one. Your moves are really too easy to predict. Homungosaur remarked, then decisively extended his fist and slammed it into Vilgax's body. Under his barrage of punches, Vilgax gradually became unrecognizable. Had a legendary warlord fallen just like this? Vilgax let out a hysterical roar. After one of his claw strikes missed, he actually opened his mouth wide and, like a starving wolf, bit down fiercely onto Homungosaur's shoulder. Crunch! Crunch! He was viciously gnawing on Homungosaur's shoulder. Homungosaur looked stunned and froze in place. I made a mistake. That's right. You didn't expect me to tear you apart with my teeth. Vilgax said viciously, continuing to gnaw away. Bang! The next second, Homungosaur grabbed Vilgax with one hand, pried his jaws open, and threw him flying. And on his shoulder, there wasn't even the slightest scratch, only shallow tooth marks. What I got wrong was, I shouldn't have been dodging your attacks at all. Homungosaur suddenly realized. For the three elements of combat skills, Jetre only needed observation and subdual. But for Homungosaur, who possessed terrifying defensive power, it seemed he only needed one element, subdual. Then, let's try attacking Vilgax without holding back. Homungosaur held his breath, watching Vilgax stumble toward him. This time, he abandoned all defense, his fists exploding onto Vilgax's vital points like a barrage of missiles. At first, Vilgax could still use his claws to tear at Homungosaur. But he was no match for the thick-skinned and sturdy Homungosaur. Just a few seconds later, Homungosaur's heavy punches shattered Vilgax's joints, beating him into a literal octopus ball. No! With a mournful cry, after just 1 minute, Vilgax, now almost reduced to pulp, collapsed heavily to the ground, lifeless. Just as I thought. Homungosaur clenched his fists, looking at his sturdy scales with pleasant surprise. Homungosaur doesn't need defense, he just needs to swing his fists and strike at the enemy's fatal points. His super strength plus focus on vital points would definitely change the nickname, Homungosaur the Jobber. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward. Omnitrix Enhancement X1. Humungosaur wore a satisfied expression. Enhance now. Finally, he could enhance his Omnitrix. For any transformer, the importance of the transformation device was unquestionable. Ding! Enhancement successful. The Omnitrix transformation duration has increased from 10 minutes to 20 minutes. Humungosaur said. Quite generous, doubling my transformation duration just like that. Hiss. A warm current suddenly surged through his body, washing away all his discomfort. The genetic burden caused by multiple transformations vanished into thin air from that moment on. At the same time as the Omnitrix was enhanced, Xiaoran's physical body was also visibly strengthened, becoming more adapted to the Omnitrix. Truly worthy of being a blue-grade reward. It could be called a two-way enhancement. Finally dealt with Vilgax. Ben Tennyson walked slowly toward the charred corpse, remarking, dealing with this guy is way more exciting than playing video games. Ben. Humungosaur snapped out of his thoughts and reached out a finger to pat Ben Tennyson on the shoulder. Dealing with freaks isn't like playing a game. You have to be serious. If you aren't serious, you might just die at their hands. Got it, stop trying to scare me, Xiaoran. Ben Tennyson didn't notice the heaviness in Humungosaur's eyes and joked. After some chatting, everyone got into the rust bucket one by one and drove away from there. Because of their exhaustion, they all fell asleep again, sleeping until dawn the next day. As soon as day broke, Xiaoran pestered Ben Tennyson to spar, transforming into aliens and blasting each other. For one, he wanted to try and trigger more check-in opportunities. For another, he could also train his control over the aliens. But the result was that he could only use Ben Tennyson as a punching bag to practice. Time flew by. Soon it was night again, and the rust bucket had driven out of the campsite and arrived at the suburbs of Washington. Xiaoran leaned against the passenger seat, having changed into a new set of clothes, quietly watching the scenery outside the window. It was about time. Ding! 1 day of travel time reached, about to send the host back to the main world. 1 day, that was fast. Do I have the capital to fight against the Error Omnitrix now? Xiaoran clenched his fists tightly, his eyes filled with a hint of heaviness. His figure began to flicker in and out of existence. Xiaoran, what's wrong with your body? Is it being backlashed by that watch? Ben Tennyson rushed over anxiously, arriving in front of Xiaoran. He reached out to touch him, but couldn't make contact with Xiaoran's body. Ben, good. Xiaoran collected his heavy emotions, but before he could say goodbye, his figure vanished in an instant. The burden of fighting the Error Omnitrix was too heavy, so much so that he overlooked the good buddy he had made during his brief time-space travel. Ben Tennyson stood there, lost and dejected, his hands clenched tightly. Xiaoran, I didn't even get a chance to help you. I've decided, if we meet again, I will definitely help you. Sigh. Max didn't have the heart to discourage Ben Tennyson, only sighing softly. For Xiaoran, it was just a brief trip. But for Ben Tennyson, this lonely child, it was his most precious memory. At the same time, it was also Professor Paradox's most terrifying memory. His face was tense, appearing on the road behind. With his appearance, the road seemed to freeze in place. Some mysterious power is actually able to send a transformer from one universe to another. And I am powerless to stop it. Professor Paradox frowned deeply, muttering to himself, I will definitely find the universe you are in and figure out what is going on. This was his duty. Whoosh. With a ripple in space-time, Professor Paradox disappeared from the spot. Ding! Time travel complete. The surrounding environment underwent a drastic change, and the sky brightened in an instant. At this moment, Xiaoran was standing on a road that could be called a ruin. He instantly raised his wrist, selected Humungosaur, and decisively transformed. Humungosaur, under the scorching sun, looked around without daring to breathe. After a long while, he confirmed one thing. The Error Omnitrix was not here for the time being. The rust bucket is not here either. Humungosaur looked at the original location of the rust bucket, and his heart instantly tightened. He needed to figure out right now what earth-shattering changes had occurred in this world after he left. Switch, Jetre. Jetre's figure soared high from the road, flying into midair. He braved the scorching sun, squinting his eyes as he looked down at the area. In this area, apart from a section in the middle of the road that had been destroyed by glitch way big, the road before and after was normal. If the rust bucket wasn't here, then it was only possible that they had driven away along the road. If Grandpa and the others drove away, where would they go? Jetray pondered for a moment, his thoughts unconsciously drifting back to half an hour ago. Half an hour ago, he was sitting in the rust bucket from the parallel universe, arriving at the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Following this road, the only possibility is Washington, D.C. Grandpa and the others must be waiting for me in Washington, D.C. Jetray immediately concluded, and after searching around to no avail, he decisively flew at a high altitude, heading towards Washington, D.C. The journey was exceptionally quiet, so quiet that not only was there no sign of the error Omnitrix, but there wasn't even a single human figure. Why is there no one? Jetray frowned tightly and continued flying at supersonic speeds. Before long, a bustling city appeared before him, filled with the clamor of voices and the atmosphere of daily life. That's more like it, Jetray said with a smile, accelerating his flight speed. As he approached Washington, D.C., the voices coming from this American capital became louder and louder, turning instead into boom, boom sounds. Roar. A giant lizard, over 10 meters long and standing as tall as a two-story building, suddenly rushed onto the road and roared at Jetray. Is this a dinosaur? A Tyrannosaurus? A living Tyrannosaurus? Jetray was dumbfounded, instantly recognizing the identity of this Tyrannosaurus. And as he continued to fly into Washington, D.C. In the lush green square of Washington, D.C., there were herbivorous dinosaurs leisurely grazing. On the streets, there were Tyrannosaurus rexes walking around curiously. Dinosaurs were everywhere here, yet there wasn't a single human in sight. It was practically a prehistoric era. This is simply the prehistoric era that Dr. Onamo mentioned in the original work. Jetray's mouth twitched violently, and he exclaimed in astonishment, Dr. Onamo of this universe, has he already taken control of Washington, D.C. so quickly? He, Xiao Ran, sincerely hoped. Let this error Omnitrix world just stop at this level. Don't let it get any crazier. Ding! Brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex triggered a check-in. Check-in task. Please beat the brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex down and smash it into mud. Check-in reward. White reward. On the street. On the street, a super Tyrannosaurus Rex, standing as tall as 3 or 4 stories and with a body length even more exaggerated than a large truck, had a dazzling white light shining from its body. When Jetray looked at it, it also looked up at Jetray, its eyes filled with hunting intent. Phew. Jetray took a deep breath and hovered above the brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex, before finding Grandpa and the others. Taking care of you along the way isn't impossible. I can't miss every opportunity to become stronger. Roar. The brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex roared at Jetray, extending its small claws to lightly tear apart a nearby building. The building crumbled like dregs of tofu. Is it that strong? Seeing this scene, Jetray was rarely silent. Then he exerted force directly upwards, rapidly disappearing from the eyes of the brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex. PFF'd. The brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex made a mocking sound and shook its head slightly. What a cowardly prey. Boom. In the sky, a series of violent sonic booms came, as if something was falling. The brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex slowly raised its head, its pupils trembling like a violent earthquake. I'll fight you. I'm not even afraid of the error Omnitrix, why would I be afraid of a lizard like you? Humungosaur curled his body, his gaze fierce, falling from the sky like a nuclear bomb, crashing down towards the brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex. His body even sparked from the friction. Roar. The brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex was shocked and tremblingly lifted its legs, wanting to run. However, Humungosaur, transformed into a fast-moving meteor of fire, smashed into it a step faster. In an instant, the entire street turned into ruins, submerged in blood. The brutal Tyrannosaurus Rex was gone on the spot. Pitifully killed in one wave by Xiao Ran's shameless hero-switching tactic. I'm so dizzy, money is hard to earn, shit is hard to eat, and tasks are hard to do. Humungosaur was not seriously hurt, but he still stood up shakily, unable to even stand steady. Under that kind of huge impact force, it was already a miracle that he wasn't seriously injured. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward is Enhancement Opportunity X1. The system's cold voice sounded, but Humungosaur was even more dizzy, sitting slumped on the ground to adapt to the terrifying impact. Even the system's next words. He did not hear. Bang bang bang. All around, dinosaurs slowly lifted their feet and walked towards Humungosaur in an incredibly eerie manner. Whether they were herbivorous dinosaurs or carnivorous animals, they actually joined forces to surround the collapsed Humungosaur. As if they had a master commanding them. The Triceratops raised its horn to stab fiercely, the Tyrannosaurus began to bite, and the Stegosaurus rammed with force. Oh no! Humungosaur's consciousness cleared slightly, and looking at the incoming attacks, he weakly raised his arms, but it was of no use at all. The Triceratops's horn stabbed into his chest. The Tyrannosaurus's teeth bit into his body. The Stegosaurus rammed into Humungosaur's abdomen. I can hold on. Humungosaur gritted his teeth, his consciousness gradually clearing, desperate to resist this wave of attacks. Crack! Something shattered. The dinosaurs let out miserable cries, their respective organs used for attacking began to shatter, and they all retreated in pain. Sunlight shone on Humungosaur, illuminating his body, which was covered in metallic, shining super scales. Phew, system. Humungosaur slowly shook his head, and now fully awake, he stood up. Repeat it again, what was Humungosaur enhanced with? Ding! Enhancement successful. Humungosaur's biological scales have been enhanced into metallic scales. Just then, Humungosaur's drab scales faded away, turning into silver scales. His whole being was as if he had evolved into metal. Now, I can slaughter you freaks. Humungosaur revealed a sinister grin and slowly walked towards the dinosaurs. With the addition of metallic scales, he had simply become a one-punch man. His fists were already infinitely powerful, and the metallic scales were exceptionally heavy, causing his fists to be exaggeratedly heavy. With one punch, even a dinosaur would be smashed. Metallic scales, able to attack and defend. In just a few minutes, almost all the dinosaurs were silent, lying on the ground. Only one velociraptor, a schemer, took advantage of the chaotic battle to sneakily escape in one direction. While escaping, it seemed to show a smug expression, but it didn't notice behind it. The motorcycle covered and upgraded by upgrade was following it closely in an almost silent manner. 10 minutes later, the velociraptor stopped at the entrance of the prehistoric museum. Roar! The velociraptor whined and scurried into the museum. The motorcycle driven by Upgrade stopped in a secluded spot. Who? Upgrade dismounted from the motorcycle, looking cautiously at the entrance of the prehistoric museum. This is the place where the original Dr. Onimo revived prehistoric creatures. So, should he stay here and observe? Or should he go in and storm the place? Or, whoosh! Swampfire appeared, his eyes fixed sharply on the museum, his hands slowly clenching into burning fists. Why not just set a fire outside and burn the museum down? This is the safest way. As for whether he'll end up in jail for life, forget it. Bang, bang, bang. Footsteps suddenly echoed, and a figure slowly walked out of the museum entrance. A man with a hooked nose, brown hair, wearing a lab coat, and looking gloomy walked out. His image looked exactly like a taciturn weirdo. Is this the healthy version of Dr. Onimo? Swampfire looked at him in astonishment, the image of Dr. Onimo appearing in his mind. Compared to that white-haired, sallow-skinned weirdo Dr. Onimo. This Dr. Onimo seems to be in pretty good shape. Hey, alien. Dr. Onimo turned his head slowly and suddenly looked toward Swampfire's position. What do you want with me? How did you find me? Swampfire walked out of his hiding spot, reaching out and aiming at Dr. Onimo. That's the first question I'm asking you. Dr. Onimo didn't answer, but instead looked up at the sky coldly. The sky. Swampfire also looked up in confusion. Whoosh! A terrifying Quetzalcoatlus pierced through the air, flying in front of Swampfire at a speed almost comparable to Jetray. In an instant, its pair of claws, like those catching prey, firmly grabbed Swampfire's shoulders. Then, the Quetzalcoatlus exerted force, throwing Swampfire hard toward a nearby building. How could my dinosaur army be without scouts? You underestimate my intelligence, weirdo. Dr. Onimo calmly lit a premium cigarette, muttering to himself. Under his command, the Quetzalcoatlus would slam Swampfire down at maximum speed. Bang! A violent crash occurred. Swampfire's flaming fist struck the Quetzalcoatlus, punching right through the terrifying pterosaur. He himself landed heavily on the ground, fluidly rolling to his feet. This guy isn't panicked at all. Dr. Onimo threw the cigarette on the ground, looking at the unscathed Swampfire with some irritation. You underestimate my reaction speed, weirdo. Swampfire's eyes were calm, his willpower as astonishing as a soldier's. He took a step, walking toward Dr. Onimo, who was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Now, let's continue the interrogation. Whoosh! Accompanied by a flash of light. Xiao Ran walked on the road, no longer having the previous sense of oppression, looking at Dr. Onimo somewhat awkwardly. Transformation time is up. At this moment, Dr. Onimo looked up in surprise, excitedly pulling a knife from his person, walking trembling toward Xiao Ran. Cut off your right arm, and everything will be over. Xiao Ran struck a combat pose, glancing oddly at the Omnitrix on his left hand. Right arm, isn't it the left arm? That's not right. The error monster the old man mentioned, the watch is on the left hand, not the right hand. Dr. Onimo suddenly stopped his steps, shouting. Bang, bang, bang. At the museum entrance, familiar figures suddenly burst out. This isn't the glitch monster, it's Xiao Ran. Max walked up to Xiao Ran excitedly, hugging him tightly. Although it had only been a day, it felt like a long-awaited reunion. Grandpa, I'm glad you're okay. Xiao Ran breathed a deep sigh of relief, also hugging Max tightly. Now, we're just missing Dweeb, and we'll be complete. Gwen Tennyson's eyes were red, standing at the museum entrance looking somewhat haggard, saying softly. Alright, this isn't the place to talk, get into my museum. Dr. Onimo didn't hesitate, demanding straightforwardly. Although Xiao Ran was full of doubts, seeing Max and the others staying here, he followed Dr. Onimo inside. Almost seconds after they went inside. Boom! The sky outside echoed with a sound like a roaring fighter jet, as if some terrifying creature had flown by. Xiao Ran turned around reflexively, looking outside nervously. It's a lock-on. Dr. Onimo's expression was solemn, his words filled with certainty. Based on the intelligence provided by your grandfather, I deduced that the glitch monster can lock onto your transformation signal. The creature that flew by outside is him. Is that so? So, what exactly happened? Xiao Ran looked closely at Dr. Onimo, asking. The glitch monster has attacked other cities. Dr. Onimo said slowly while walking inside. After Xiao Ran left, Glitch Way Big slaughtered other cities. Max and the others sat in the rust bucket, escaping to Washington with no danger, and reported these matters to Washington's reserve plumber, Dr. Onimo. You are a reserve plumber. Xiao Ran looked at Dr. Onimo as if he had seen a ghost. Don't be so surprised. Besides being a scientist, it's perfectly normal for me to also be a reserve plumber. Dr. Onimo glanced at Xiao Ran and continued, when I learned about the glitch monster, I revived the dinosaurs, scaring most people away, and I brought the remaining people to the museum to hide. So the dinosaurs that seemed to be destroying the city were actually guarding against the glitch monster. So, the dinosaurs I killed were actually my teammates. Xiao Ran's mouth twitched violently as he asked. It doesn't matter. Dr. Onimo said expressionlessly and coldly, I can still find those dinosaur fossils. The priority is for us to join forces and take down the glitch monster. Hearing this, Xiao Ran finally realized. Dr. Onimo in this universe is actually a teammate. Of course, he didn't feel much shock inside, but rather a sense of relief. Perhaps, Dr. Onimo will be a good teammate. The group walked deep into the museum, which was packed with all kinds of refugees. If Xiao Ran had actually set a fire, the consequences would have been unimaginable. There are many people living in Washington. But these are the people at the bottom who couldn't escape in time. If we kill the glitch monster one day later, these people will have to live in fear for one more day. Dr. Onimo looked at all this, his sense of justice overflowing. Xiao Ran looked at the people living in fear. They might be of different races and different faiths, but they had one thing in common. They were all living under the fear of the error Omnitrix. So, Dr. Onimo, do you have a way to deal with the glitch monster? Xiao Ran stared intently at Dr. Onimo, asking pointedly. I will use my genetic modulator to create a genetic signal to lure the glitch monster to the scene. Dr. Onimo turned his head to look at Xiao Ran, his tone full of radicalism. The two of us will join forces, subdue him together, and cut off his arm. This. Xiao Ran didn't disagree with the plan, but it was unbelievable. You're a scientist after all, isn't this plan too simple and crude? That's exactly the kind of plan we need. So we can immediately kill this scum. Dr. Onamo was infinitely more radical than Xiao Ran, saying impulsively with clenched fists. Ding! Reserve plumber Dr. Onamo triggered a check-in. Check-in task. Dr. Onamo wants to kill the glitch monster as quickly as possible. For this, you will bear great risks. Please support him unconditionally and kill the glitch monster together. Check-in reward. Green reward. It turns out the system and Dr. Onamo are all radicals. Since that's the case, let's do it. Xiao Ran crossed his arms, without the slightest hesitation, and said slowly. Before going to the check-in location, he was timid. After coming back from the check-in location, he was still timid toward the error Omnitrix. Then didn't he go to the check-in location for nothing? In the air, Glitch Jetre flew in a distorted manner, his eyes filled with killing intent. Xiao Ran. Where are you? Dinosaur Museum, conference room. Dr. Onamo wore the genetic modulator, dressed in a vest with special devices, looking just like a mad scientist. Xiao Ran sat opposite, sizing him up, and sighed silently. Just as every transformer has an Omnitrix, every Dr. Onamo has his own genetic modulator. Next, I need to extract some DNA from your Omnitrix, and through my genetic modulator, inject it into the Velociraptor. Dr. Onamo said with a serious face. Xiao Ran raised his wrist with the Omnitrix and said, how are you going to extract the DNA from my Omnitrix? Open the Homungosaur screen, but don't transform. Under Dr. Onamo's direction, Xiao Ran tapped the Omnitrix. As the screen bulged, the figure of Homungosaur appeared. In this state, the Omnitrix emitted waves of fluorescence, in a state of readiness. Now your watch is releasing trace DNA elements, it can be extracted. Dr. Onamo walked up to Xiao Ran, took out a test strip, and applied it to the Omnitrix. After waiting a few seconds, he tore off the test strip, and it was stained with some fluorescence. I remember in the original story, when Ben pried open the watch casing, it would also affect the internal gene bank. It seems my Omnitrix shares this setting with the others. Xiao Ran secretly pulled back his wrist, keeping this in mind. Soon after, Dr. Onamo inserted the test strip into the genetic modulator and aimed the genetic modulator at the Velociraptor. Whoosh! As the genetic modulator activated, the Velociraptor's figure gradually swelled under the light. Scales burst from its body. It became a hybrid of Velociraptor plus Homungosaur. Dr. Onamo, you are truly something else, being able to create this. Xiao Ran looked at this bizarre hybrid, dumbfounded. Dr. Onamo grinned and said lightly, a small matter, I am the greatest biology doctor on Earth. As long as I get the DNA, I can mass-produce glitch monsters. As time passed, the Velociraptor's body swelled to twice its size, covered in scales, completely turned into a Homungosaur Velociraptor. It looked at Dr. Onamo and gave a soft roar, the sound incredibly loud. Now, the plan begins. Dr. Onamo took a deep breath and waved his hand slowly. Velociraptor, go out and attract the attention of the glitch monster. He looked at Xiao Ran again, staring uncertainly at this child. Are you ready? What follows is a fight for your life. The resolve to fight for my life. I had it yesterday. Xiao Ran shrugged lightly, reached out, and decisively pressed the Omnitrix screen. Waiting for the glitch monster to come and attack the Homungosaur Velociraptor, it would be ambushed by his transformation. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward is. The system's crisp voice sounded, speaking the green reward. Xiao Ran's hand suddenly froze, not transforming, but twisting the Omnitrix screen instead. Switching to a new alien. What? Not using Homungosaur. I have a better choice. Accompanied by a burst of light, only Dr. Onamo remained in the conference room. Bang! The Homungosaur Velociraptor crashed through the back door of the conference room and rushed onto the street outside. In the sky, the glitch Jetre had a fierce expression, rushing in a certain direction like a ghost, with extreme speed. It flew over street after street, gradually switching from a gliding posture to a diving posture. Diving toward a moving Velociraptor figure on the ground. Roar! The glitch Jetre revealed a bloodthirsty expression, opening its mouth full of sharp teeth, wishing it could eat Xiao Ran alive. Roar. The humongousaur velociraptor slowly looked up, watching the diving glitch Jetre, and actually roared back. Its eyes carried mockery. Just this thing flying in the sky. It doesn't even look as good as the pterosaur next door. It's purely embarrassing. Whoosh. In the sky, the glitch Jetre's figure suddenly flashed with light. Following that, a huge figure, in a diving posture, blasted toward the humongousaur velociraptor on the ground. Glitch way big. The humongousaur velociraptor widened its eyes, terrified to the point where its feet slipped, and its lower body collapsed to the ground in fear. It could only watch helplessly as Glitch way big swept down. Rumble. Glitch way big crashed into the ground, instantly crushing the humongousaur velociraptor into a pile of meat paste. The entire street shook like an earthquake, cracking instantly. For a moment, the world seemed to collapse. Glitch way big stood up in silence, revealing a heartless smile, and gently reached out to flip through the pile of meat paste. Inside the meat paste, the Omnitrix was not found. Glitch way big froze. Why did he feel a chill rising from under his feet, reaching his back? Bang! A violent freezing spread instantly across Glitch way big's entire body, freezing him directly into a huge ice sculpture. The lifelike giant ice sculpture looked like a masterpiece of nature. A hooded figure, constantly breathing out cold air, stood on Glitch way big's head. He was panting, but his eyes were full of excitement. Nice, the velociraptor used its life to let me freeze Glitch way big in one go. The new alien Xiao Ran obtained was Big Chill. Crack, crack. In an instant, the ice sculpture on Glitch way big cracked, shattering into countless ice blocks that fell to the ground. He looked around in a rage, looking as if he had been played. All around were only the cold mists emitted by the broken ice blocks. This cold mist perfectly hid Big Chill, making him elusive. Roar. Glitch way big let out a roar, using the sound to shatter the cold mist around him. The moment the cold mist dispersed, Big Chill's figure assaulted Glitch way big at an extremely fast speed. His eyes were cold, staring straight at the demonic Glitch way big, and he placed one hand on the latter's head. Crack. Glitch way big's head was instantly frozen by ice. Big Chill punched again, shattering the ice on Glitch way big's forehead, leaving cracks on it. Seeing this, Glitch way big tore off the ice on his head in anger, glaring fiercely at Big Chill. The little grasshopper he had stepped on yesterday could actually jump up and bite him today. Don't be so angry. Once I take you down, you'll have plenty to be angry about. Big Chill breathed out cold air, slowly provoking Glitch way big's anger. Ding! Glitch way big check-in triggered. Check-in mission. Please strike Glitch way big hard and knock him down once. Check-in reward. Blue reward plus white reward. The original mission appeared again. But the reward had changed from blue plus green to blue plus white. This meant the difficulty of the mission had decreased. Or rather, Xiao Ran's possibility of defeating the error Omnitrix had increased. Even though I have gained the system's recognition, I must still do my utmost to defeat the error Omnitrix. To defeat it once and for all. Big Chill took a deep breath, his mind quickly settling, as steady as a rock. This state of calmness allowed him to still come up with targeted tactics while facing the furious Glitch way big. Rumble. A loud noise came, and Glitch way big suddenly swung a punch, his massive fist smashing toward Big Chill like a meteorite. But this seemingly mighty punch. Big Chill glanced at it lightly, then yawned out of boredom. The sleeves on his body spread directly into wings, and with a dashing movement, he glided past Glitch way big's fist, avoiding it perfectly. Quote. Glitch way big widened his eyes in disbelief, watching Big Chill fly past his arm. The two locked eyes. In Big Chill's eyes, there was contempt. Roar. Glitch way big roared furiously, reaching out again to grab Big Chill, but he only barely grazed the latter's figure. His movements began to accelerate. His fists blasted out like a meteor shower. Yet Big Chill, relying on his superb combat skills, drifted among the countless fists. It was as if he had activated observation hockey. The intention behind the fists is too obvious. They will be seen through by me. He revealed a cold smile, his ghostly pupils actually possessing a bit of frigid dominance. Roar. Veins popped on Glitch Way Big's forehead, and he accelerated his attack speed, somewhat broken in his composure. He didn't believe it. A piece of trash who only knew how to dodge could defeat him, the error Omnitrix. Is that so? Dr. Onimo watched this scene, revealing a mysterious smile. Xiao Ran's tactics are quite obvious, it's just that the idiot glitch monster didn't see it. Tisk, if he had even half my IQ, he would have ruled the world. Just as he had expected. A few seconds later, Big Chill dodged Glitch Way Big's fist again, then landed calmly on the ground. He looked up at Glitch Way Big and said indifferently, "Time is about up, it's time to switch to an offensive alien." Roar. Glitch Way Big, holding back a belly full of anger, roared and slammed his fist fiercely toward the motionless Big Chill. He didn't notice at all. His movements, compared to before, had slowed down quite a bit. Bang! Glitch Way Big's punch hit Homungosaur's body heavily. The buildings around Homungosaur were instantly destroyed by the force of the punch, but he alone stood as immovable as Mount Tai. With a body of metallic scales, he took the true damage of the punch head on. Awoo! Glitch Way Big, however, had his eyes bulge out, and let out a violent scream. He instantly unclenched his tightly gripped fist and frantically shook his hand, like he was waving it around wildly. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Did I just hit a living creature? It's simply an alien iron beast. Next, I'll use Homungosaur to settle you. Homungosaur slowly twisted his arms and nonchalantly brushed the dust off his body. He clenched his fists, aiming at Glitch Way Big, who was screaming more than 10 meters away. Seeing him aiming at himself, Glitch Way Big was still only focused on shaking his hand. At this attack distance, he could hit Xiao Ran. Could Xiao Ran hit him? How is that possible? Boom! Homungosaur swung his fist violently. The moment he swung his fist, his body suddenly enlarged by 20 meters, and the swung fist naturally enlarged and stretched along with it. The distance between the fist and Glitch Way Big began to infinitely shrink. Quote! Glitch Way Big reacted, hurriedly twisting his body, but his body was very stiff and simply wouldn't obey him. Boom! Homungosaur's earth-shattering heavy punch hit Glitch Way Big squarely in the face. Glitch Way Big swayed, covering his twisted face with his hands, almost screaming out. Next, I'll strike your fatal spots. Homungosaur roared, striking a combat pose, his fists pummeling Glitch Way Big's fatal weak points like a rainstorm. Every single punch he landed was enough to trigger all of Glitch Way Big's pain nerves throughout his whole body, placing him in hell. Pain. His whole body hurt. Why can't I dodge this guy's fists? Glitch Way Big endured the pain, looking at his slow body in disbelief. His pupils suddenly constricted. Don't know when. The skin all over his body was covered in thick frost, frozen until it had lost all sensation. These frosts severely restricted every move Glitch Way Big made. This frost. Homungosaur watched this scene and said, twisting the knife in the wound, "It was left on you silently when I was dodging with Big Chill just now." Big Chill was responsible for applying buffs to Glitch Way Big. Homungosaur was responsible for knocking down Glitch Way Big. He threw punches continuously, but Glitch Way Big was like a roly-poly toy, always managing to persist without falling. Even Homungosaur was gradually becoming a bit out of breath. Where did this guy Xiao Ran get plumber martial arts? Is this guy Max so strict? Dr. Onimo frowned watching this scene and added silently, "I don't know either." Max walked over slowly, holding his chin and saying, "I have never taught him these things. Could it be self-taught? That possibility is extremely slim, right? Grandpa." Homungosaur, while suppressing Glitch Way Big with his fists, suddenly shouted, "I can't defeat him with combat skills alone. Give me the best advice. If there's anything you don't understand, asking Grandpa Max is the right thing to do. Max has maxed out his stats in terms of techniques. If combat skills can't completely knock him down." Max watched this scene, a flash of heartache in his eyes, but still said firmly, "Then use weapon striking techniques, which means changing your punching method to attacking with weapons." Weapons. Homungosaur looked around, but didn't find any suitable weapons. The sunlight shone on the countless scales on his body, flickering with rays of light. No. Homungosaur himself is a super heavyweight weapon. His fists suddenly stopped, and his movements paused. Glitch Way Big stood firm as if in a dream, regaining his senses from hell, and looked at Humungosaur with murderous intent. His hell was over, and now it was Xiao's turn. Bang! Humungosaur raised his fists and exerted force to output. His head, like a third fist, also headbutted over. His tail also lifted up and swept heavily across. 4 consecutive attacks turned Humungosaur's whole body into a weapon, all colliding simultaneously onto Glitch Way Big. Rumble. The immense divine power instantly overturned the stunned Glitch Way Big, blasting him away. I finally knocked you down once, Error Omnitrix. Humungosaur's mouth slowly curled up, watching the flying Glitch Way Big with extreme excitement. Boom. With a loud noise, Glitch Way Big, like a KO'd ring fighter, slammed heavily onto a street opposite. Ding! Check-in successful. The system's voice arrived as promised. And on the fallen Glitch Way Big. Suddenly a dazzling light appeared, it was the light of switching aliens. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward. Feedback. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward. Upgrade opportunity X1. The blue reward is feedback, Ben Tennyson's favorite, with super fast speed. And the white reward is an upgrade opportunity. Well then. While switching to feedback, apply the upgrade opportunity to feedback. Humungosaur didn't hesitate in the slightest and made a prompt decision. Only in this way could he completely crush the Error Omnitrix with absolute combat power. Whoosh! As Humungosaur's figure flickered, Feedback's figure appeared in and out of sight. At the same time, a crisp sound rang out in his mind. Ding! Upgrade successful. Feedback's power release has been upgraded to lightning release. A lightning symbol appeared on Feedback's forehead, countless plugs on his body sparkled with lightning, and a domineering elemental power surged within him. He was instantly filled with confidence and looked at the flickering figure opposite him. Who will the Error Omnitrix transform into? Whoosh! As the light faded, Glitch Amphibian stood there, looking at Feedback with some surprise. Are we the same? Then let's see whose speed is faster. Feedback spoke slowly, his voice filled with confidence. Whoosh! With a slight collision sound, Glitch Amphibian, with a bloodthirsty look on his face, moved first and arrived in front of Feedback. His palm, wreathed in electric light, formed into a blade shape and thrust toward Feedback's heart. Stabbed to death right after looking cool. That's a bit lame. Dr. Onemo's mouth twitched violently, and looking flustered, he adjusted the genetic modulator, preparing for the next one to enter the field. Wait, there's no blood. Mark said sharply. Just then. Not a drop of blood flowed from Feedback, his figure flickered for a moment before shattering instantly. It was an afterimage. Quote? Glitch Amphibian was stunned, and suddenly, a whistling wind came from above his head. Boom. Feedback appeared above Glitch Amphibian's head as if teleporting, and with a kick wreathed in lightning, he slammed into Glitch Amphibian's forehead. Glitch Amphibian instantly bent over, his head hitting the ground and creating a large hole. His whole body was dented in. Why are you staring at my afterimage? My real body is here. Feedback said gleefully. Boom. Glitch Amphibian pulled his head out in a rage, covered in electric light, and swung his fists rapidly, enhanced by the electric light. But, Feedback stepped forward, letting the fist strike his body. And his own fist transformed into a terrifying thunderbolt, blasting onto Glitch Amphibian. His fist was faster. So much so that Glitch Amphibian was sent flying. As long as my attack speed is fast enough, I can ignore all your moves. Feedback roared, his body turning into a deep blue thunderbolt, teleporting around Glitch Amphibian again. He swung his fist again, gleefully blasting Glitch Amphibian. Every time he crushed Glitch Amphibian, it was a reward for the effort he had put in over the last 2 days. And it allowed him to vent his frustration thoroughly. Glitch Amphibian was on the receiving end the whole time, completely unable to fight back. You have to know, Glitch Amphibian was already weaker than a normal Feedback, not to mention that Feedback had been upgraded and mastered both lightning and electricity. With the two fighting, Feedback could bully Glitch Amphibian like a little brat. Roar. With a roar, Glitch Amphibian stopped countering Feedback and spread his fingers, aiming at Mark. Whoosh. As a bolt of electricity flew toward Mark. Feedback moved in time, just barely blocking the electric attack for Mark. Don't worry about me. Oh no, that guy is absorbing electricity. Mark said hurriedly, pointing to Glitch Amphibian not far away. Not far away. Glitch Amphibian took the opportunity to move to a power distribution box and placed one hand on it. His figure began to flicker rapidly. Aiming his palm at feedback, he unleashed a terrifying electric current as thick as a bucket. Grandpa, I know this move too. And, I'm better at it than him. Feedback wore an intriguing expression. He stood still, raised his palm casually, stopped the terrifying current, and instead absorbed it into himself. Feedback then aimed his other hand at Glitch Amphibian. Glitch Amphibian's expression was calm, a trace of complacency flashing deep in his eyes. You can catch my electricity, and I can catch yours. Just keep wearing each other down. I'll definitely be able to wear that fool Xiao Ran to death. This time, it was his turn to outplay Xiao Ran. Strangely, Feedback's raised hand showed no sign of releasing electricity. The lightning symbol on his forehead, and even the lightning symbols all over his body, suddenly began to shine brightly. Electric current, and lightning began to jump across his raised palm. Quote question mark quote. Glitch Amphibian suppressed his inner shock and questions, maintaining his absorption posture. No matter what kind of energy it is, he can absorb it. Try mine, lightning cannon. With a low roar from Feedback, lightning flashed in his eyes, and a sky-piercing lightning cannon bloomed in front of his palm, with dazzling electric currents flashing around the lightning. Rumble. In an instant, the terrifying lightning cannon arrived in front of the stunned Glitch Amphibian. He gritted his teeth and raised his hand to absorb this lightning cannon. Unexpectedly, the lightning cannon actually stopped, and he was barely absorbing it. Xiao Ran, he caught it. It seems you two are destined to be evenly matched. Mark reminded him nervously, while Dr. Onamo sighed softly. Bang! But a roaring sound suddenly rang out. Glitch Amphibian's expression changed drastically as the lightning within his body jumped out, tearing through his entire body. And the lightning cannon outside his body blasted him over in one go, smashing him into the power distribution box, wrecking it completely. An inside-out attack, it almost shattered Glitch Amphibian's body. Idiot. Feedback calmly lowered his hand. You really thought you could absorb my lightning power? You can't handle this massive power. Lightning release not only allowed him to release an extra type of energy, but it also increased his energy limit. The lightning cannon he could store, Glitch Amphibian couldn't. You'd better be calling him an idiot. As a genius scientist, Dr. Onamo pulled a long face, unhappy. Sorry, old buddy. Mark laughed it off and patted Dr. Onamo on the shoulder. Whoosh. Feedback moved quickly, arriving in front of Glitch Amphibian, who had fallen into the broken power distribution box. Just then, the Glitch Amphibian named Feedback was twitching from the stimulation of the lightning power, unable to move. Never mind whether his body could move, he couldn't even control his own facial expressions, he couldn't move at all. My god. The move Xiao Ran just used against you was so cool. And what made Glitch Amphibian break down was that in his ears, the excited voice of Ben Tennyson himself kept ringing. Everyone was watching him play the clown. Now, cancel your transformation. Feedback quickly reached out and placed his hand on the pattern on Glitch Amphibian's body. At this moment, Glitch Amphibian's eyes suddenly turned fierce, and a burst of DNA light flashed on his body. Switching aliens again. Then I'll go for the kill directly. Seeing this scene, Feedback's mentality suddenly broke a little, and his confident expression dimmed. The Error Omnitrix couldn't kill him, and he couldn't crush the Error Omnitrix either, right? Is there only the path of sentencing Ben Tennyson to death? Swish. As the light dissipated, the figure of Glitch Amphibian transformed back into a frail child. The child was disheveled, his white coat filthy and covered in dust, and his pants stained with blood. Although he looked exhausted, his spirits were quite high. Ben Tennyson. Feedback looked excitedly at the familiar figure, calling out Ben Tennyson's name. Xiao. Cough, cough, cough. Ben Tennyson also reacted, his eyes flickering with the light of hope as he looked up at Feedback. But the moment he looked up, a foreign object around his neck tightly constricted his throat and even his windpipe, making it difficult for him to breathe. The Error Omnitrix was strapped to Ben Tennyson's neck. This guy. Feedback felt a chill down his spine, watching the error omnitrix on Ben Tennyson's neck with a tremble. He seems to know that I couldn't possibly deal a lethal blow to Ben Tennyson. The error omnitrix was actually evolving. Xiao Ran had previously almost removed the error omnitrix by severing the hand. Now, the error omnitrix was bound to Ben Tennyson's neck to counter Xiao Ran. This was already even more troublesome than the error omnitrix from the original work. Hee hee. An electronic smiley face was simulated on the display of the error omnitrix. The electronic smiley face was directed right at feedback, with mockery turned up to the max. Dr. Onamo, do you have any good ideas? After a moment of silence, feedback turned his head to look at Dr. Onamo, posing a soul-searching question. If he couldn't think of a solution, he would find someone with a high IQ to think of one. This error omnitrix has presented a moral dilemma question, known as the trolley problem. Either sacrifice Ben Tennyson to protect the whole world, or be timid and hesitant until the glitch monster recovers. Dr. Onamo lowered his head slightly, recounting this matter with unbearable reluctance. This problem can only be solved by you, Xiao Ran. The pressure of being a hero is truly immense. Feedback looked pained, lowering his head to gaze at Ben Tennyson. Looking at the electronic smiley face on the error omnitrix's screen, he found it hard to make a choice. Swish. Until a fluctuation came from the space not far away. The fluctuation formed a great door. A figure slowly walked out from the door. It was an old man wearing a magnificent white robe, with a face full of wrinkles yet hair as black as ink. The old man held a cane in one hand and wore a mechanical glove on the other. You. Feedback looked at Professor Paradox, just about to speak, but found to his astonishment that he couldn't say a word. It wasn't just that he couldn't speak, his body couldn't move either. Although he couldn't see the situation behind him, he was certain that Dr. Onamo and the others were in the same situation. You cannot move because I have paused time for a moment. Professor Paradox walked calmly to Ben Tennyson, reached out with his mechanical hand, and picked up Ben Tennyson. Leave this child to me, I will handle his affairs. I will resolve all of this before his error omnitrix goes out of control. With that said, he carried Ben Tennyson and walked step by step into the space-time portal without any room for doubt. As he disappeared, time returned to normal. He left. What terrifying power. Do parallel universes really exist? The voices of Feedback, Dr. Onamo, and Max rang out one after another. Obviously, they hadn't recovered from the time stop yet. After several seconds, Feedback sat limply on the ground, feeling a huge weight lifted off his shoulders, and completely relaxed. I think Ben Tennyson is saved. The power displayed by this mysterious person will definitely be able to solve the error omnitrix problem. Dr. Onamo said with absolute certainty. The power of the glitch monster is within our understanding, but he is beyond our understanding. Yeah. Feedback nodded with emotion, a sincere smile appearing on his face. Ben Tennyson was finally saved. The nightmare they had been living through for this period had also ended. Next, he would plan his life well and use the Omnitrix to make himself more comfortable. Only then could he prepare for the crisis in the land of traversal. Feedback looked forward to the future. Max said thankfully. Fortunately, the glitch monster didn't unlock an even more terrifying alien, otherwise we wouldn't have lasted until this mysterious person arrived. Yeah. Feedback mentioned casually, laughing, if he had unlocked one capable of a nuclear explosion, we would have been finished. As they were talking, his figure flickered with light and transformed back to his original form. Dr. Onamo looked at him and slapped his forehead again. Oh no, I forgot to evacuate the crowd. After the glitch monster was resolved, the people in the museum should have been evacuated. Saying this, he dashed towards the museum. Grandpa, let's take a rest before we go. Xiao Ran lazily stretched, walked casually to a vending machine, inserted coins, and bought a Coca-Cola. He enjoyed opening the cola and savoring the sweet drink. This was what life was about. Ding! Error clockwork triggers a check-in. Check-in task. Please stop what error clockwork is doing. Check-in reward. Gold reward. Bang! The cola can in Xiao Ran's hand suddenly dropped to the ground, and the half-drunk cola spilled onto his pants. His expression was filled with confusion, and he clenched his fists tightly. System, what are you talking about? Xiao Ran, what's wrong? Max looked at this scene in confusion and asked, are you feeling unwell somewhere? No, it's nothing. Xiao Ran waved his hand to refuse, then took deep breaths to steady his emotions. What do you mean by error clockwork? The system did not speak, clearly an artificial idiot. How could he possibly have error clockwork? If he had it, he would have brought it out to deal with me long ago. Xiao Ran was getting a bit anxious, trying to refute the system's words. Suddenly, he froze. Just now, when light was flickering on Glitch Amphibian, if he had transformed into clockwork to counter-kill himself, what would have happened? He would have been ambushed by Professor Paradox and defeated. So, in this timeline, he chose to transform back to his original form to ambush Professor Paradox. Xiao Ran fell into silence, unable to calm down for a long time. Was it really not over yet? Ding! Check-in task cancelled. The system's voice sounded like music to his ears. It really was you, you sob, you got it wrong. Xiao Ran breathed a deep sigh of relief, scolded the system with a laugh, and patted his chest to comfort himself. In the future, he shouldn't let his imagination run wild. Ding! Error Alien X triggers a check-in. Check-in task. Please stop Error Alien X from destroying the universe. Check-in reward. Red reward. Error Alien X. 666, System, you really know how to talk nonsense. Xiao Ran instantly beamed with joy, looking amused. Error Alien X. Why not just make it Error Professor Paradox while you're at it? Swish. The next moment, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the sky, extending even to areas beyond everyone's field of vision, endless at a glance. A deep, dark shadow emerged from the crack, looking down at the whole world as if looking down at ants. Xiao Ran's smile froze, and he looked at the figure in the sky, somewhat on the verge of a breakdown. Error, the figure of Alien X. This can't be real, right? Xiao Ran must be dreaming. Error X Superman slowly raised his hand. With every movement, the powerful fluctuations of his energy were enough to affect the entire universe. In the face of such absolute power, Xiao Ran looked at the cooling Omnitrix on his wrist and gave a bitter smile. It's over. The world is beyond saving. Let it be destroyed, seriously. What a despicable monster, to think you were hiding such a powerful alien and not using it. Max's face was full of rage as he stared fixedly at Error X Superman, shouting angrily. In the sky, Error X Superman's movements slowed. Upon hearing this, he glanced vaguely in Max's direction. These despicable acts, these schemes, they are all things I learned from you humans. He revealed a strange smile. The Error Omnitrix was no longer the fool from the original work that only knew how to kill and was eventually exhausted to death. It had learned to deceive and to endure. Whoosh! From within the massive rift, a disheveled Professor Paradox flew out, desperately grabbing onto Error X Superman's figure, his firm voice resounding through the sky. I promised you all that I would resolve the matter of the Error Omnitrix. Trust me. With that, he pulled Error X Superman back into the rift. Before leaving, Error X Superman suddenly spoke, silently saying something to Xiao Ran. The voice resounded in the ears of Xiao Ran and Max. You too. I will save you for last. Whoosh. As the two figures submerged into the rift, it vanished, and the sky returned to peace. Xiao Ran slumped onto the ground, breathing heavily. Fear had almost overwhelmed him. No matter how rock-solid one's heart is, it can't withstand encountering an enemy at the Big Bang level. Can that mysterious person really handle a freak of this level? As a veteran of the plumbers, Max also sighed deeply, feeling worried about the future. Not far away, people were walking out of the museum, chatting and laughing. The gloom on their faces had been swept away, leaving only anticipation for tomorrow. Ignorance is sometimes a blessing. Dr. Onimo then led Gwen Tennyson over, walking with large strides, and said with a grin, haha, now that the matter of the glitch monster is settled, Washington can return to normal order. Thanks to your help this time, Dr. Onimo. Xiao Ran managed a forced smile, but his voice was weak. It's nothing. Dr. Onimo nodded and patted Gwen's shoulder. Gwen, go check if the dry cleaners are open, Xiao Ran's pants are wet. Huh. Gwen glanced at Xiao Ran's pants in surprise, then turned and ran off. I say. Xiao Ran's expression was somewhat unpleasant as he asked, even if you wanted to send Gwen away, there's no need to use this as an excuse. It was a convenient excuse. Tell me, why do you two look so terrible? Dr. Onamo looked at the two of them keenly, having already sensed that something was wrong. But after the two of them recounted the whole story from beginning to end to Dr. Onamo, Dr. Onamo's expression turned grim, and he nodded slightly. I understand. When you fight Error X Superman, just call me. Do you have any idea how strong the opponent is? Do you want me to call you so we can die together? Xiao Ran looked up at Dr. Onamo in disbelief and asked. I am a scientist, and also a reserve plumber. If I don't step up, who will? Dr. Onamo retorted, his eyes filled with justice as always. His attitude truly encouraged the other two a little. I will do my best to stop Error X Superman. Xiao Ran sighed deeply. I'm just afraid that I won't even know how I died. Dr. Onamo comforted him. Don't worry, according to what the glitch monster said before leaving, he will let you and your grandfather die last, and in the most painful way. So the situation you mentioned won't happen. Max was speechless for a moment, then looked into the distance. Why hasn't Gwen come back yet? Just as Xiao Ran opened his mouth to say something more. Ding! A large group of alien warriors has triggered a check-in. Check-in task. More than a dozen alien warriors are approaching, please stop their encirclement. Check-in reward. Green reward. More than a dozen alien warriors. Xiao Ran's expression tightened. He looked around and suddenly realized that the surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. Even Gwen, who should have returned by now, had not returned the way she came. We've been surrounded by aliens that popped out of nowhere. After Xiao Ran realized this, a rare flash of excitement appeared on his face. He needed enemies to obtain check-in rewards and improve himself. Click. With a crisp sound, the Omnitrix finished cooling down under the three of them's gaze. Bang! Xiao Ran didn't hesitate, he tapped the Omnitrix screen, selected an alien, and pressed down gently. Whoosh! Bursts of cold air slowly drifted out. Big Chill stood in place, breathing out cold air. Dr. Onamo covered his face, sighed, and walked into a shop. Another new enemy has arrived, right? Xiao Ran, be careful. Max took a deep breath and followed him into the shop. As the two hid, phew. Big Chill exhaled cold air, his body gradually becoming transparent until he vanished. In the air, faint wisps of white smoke could be seen drifting. On the street, at the end of an alley, an alien wearing a combat suit and holding a laser gun was moving along the wall. He raised his snake-like face, extended his long tongue, and fiddled with the frequency on the walkie-talkie at his waist. I have reached position 1, Captain, shall I proceed? You initiate the surprise attack first, I will support you shortly. The team will flank and surround. A voice that was stern without being angry came from the channel. The snake-faced alien nodded. He pulled the trigger of the laser gun, and the muzzle slowly poked out from the wall. Where are they? The snake-faced alien's expression suddenly changed. His thermal sensors had not captured the person who should have been in that position. No. In his sensory world, it was instantly filled with terrifying cold, almost blocking his perception. The enemy is invisible. The moment the snake-faced alien suddenly raised his gun upward, Big Chill appeared abruptly, his cloak unfolding into wings, and the cold air from his mouth sprayed onto the laser gun, instantly rendering the weapon useless. Then, he swung his palm toward the snake-faced alien's body. I can't dodge it. But I can take one hit. The snake-faced alien was filled with horror, gritting his teeth in preparation to take the blow head-on. Bang! Big Chill's palm, like an icy strike, landed on the snake-faced alien's body. In an instant, the snake-faced alien lost all strength, collapsing to the ground as if paralyzed. He looked at the spot where he was struck. It was his vital point. As long as Big Chill's attack hits the enemy's vital point, the power of the cold air will double. Big Chill flicked his hand lightly, calmly turned invisible, and stepped over the snake-faced alien. The snake-faced alien opened his mouth, but couldn't speak. Because his entire body had already been frozen. Seconds later, a strong rhino man wearing a combat suit walked into the alley. He took one look at the ice sculpture-like snake-faced alien, was shocked, and didn't hesitate to click his walkie-talkie. Everyone, assemble. Our vanguard alien has been discovered. On the other side of the walkie-talkie, there was no sound. Where is everyone? The rhino man frowned, somewhat angry. Stop flanking, everyone gather by my side. Are you talking about them? Sorry, I thought there were too many of them, so I took care of them first. In an alley behind him, Big Chill leaned against the wall, speaking calmly into the walkie-talkie in his hand. In front of him stood alien warriors frozen into ice sculptures, though not dead. Their eyes were filled with fear, their expressions pained, clearly all taken out in a single hit. How did you do it? The Rhino Man asked silently. To kill one in one move, you would need many opportunities to attack. Once is enough. With one move, I can deal with everyone. Big Chill teased nonchalantly. The reason I left you is that I wanted to get some information from you, for example, who you people are. The enemies were not strong, let alone compared to the Error Omnitrix, they weren't even as good as the skinny version of the tentacle head. This made his mindset drift a bit. Fine, I'll tell you. The Rhino Man said honestly. Next. There was a silence in the walkie-talkie. Big Chill frowned slightly. Why aren't you speaking? Boom, boom, boom. Explosions sounded, getting closer and louder. Until the final deafening sound rang out, Big Chill didn't even have time to react. A burly Rhino Man broke through the wall with his rhino horn, accompanied by countless pieces of broken concrete. He charged over with angry eyes, his momentum like a rainbow. Kid, do you really think this captain, am just for show? I'll finish you off right now and eliminate the disaster of this city. Through the conversation, he silently judged Big Chill's approximate location. Then, he smashed through the wall and charged. How scary, Big Chill is no match for a big guy like that. Big Chill looked at the incoming Rhino Man and swallowed hard. It's too late to beg for mercy now. The Rhino Man's horn thrust forward with force, stabbing fiercely toward Big Chill's chest. Crack! The rhino horn smashed heavily against a metallic chest. The owner of the metallic chest, Humungosaur. He stood in place, not moving at all, only frowning slightly. Hiss. Humungosaur reached out and gently scratched the skin where he had been hit. A bit itchy, like being bitten by a mosquito. You changed your form. My attack didn't work. The Rhino Man looked at Humungosaur in utter shock. Crack. Accompanied by a crisp cracking sound. It worked. Humungosaur said seriously. Awoo. The Rhino Man clutched his nearly cracked rhino horn, burst out with a tom-like scream, and started hopping on the spot. He had crashed into a piece of humanoid metal, or even humanoid adamantium. The opponent was fine. He was definitely in trouble. You're screaming so loudly, how am I supposed to interrogate you? Humungosaur touched his nose with an embarrassed look. Sigh, why did you have to ram into me so hard? Who knew you would turn into such a monster? The Rhino Man, in the midst of severe pain, felt his heart collapse even further. I can't take it anymore. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward is Spider Monkey. Holy crap! Spider Monkey. Humungosaur was instantly delighted. He could finally fulfill his childhood dream of being Spider-Man. This was a huge profit, no loss at all. Is this the enemy? At this moment, Dr. Onimo tiptoed to the alley entrance, his voice suddenly raised, looking at the Rhino Man in disbelief. Yeah, these guys are all wearing the same uniform, don't know what organization they are from. Humungosaur nodded, saying it as if it were natural. Ah, Rhino Strongman, are you acting under the orders of the plumbers to capture the glitch monster? Dr. Onimo's voice became awkward. Yes, the Rhino Man said, enduring the pain, his attention focused on Dr. Onimo. You're the plumber trainee, Dr. Onimo. Did you guys also mistake this guy for the glitch monster? Dr. Onimo was even more embarrassed, lowering his head and pointing at Humungosaur. There's no mistake, he is the glitch monster. We discovered him as soon as we entered the city. At that time, he was a giant. By the time we flanked him, he had turned into a moth, and finally became this lizard. The Rhino Man said, spitting everywhere. What moth, lizard, glitch monster? Humungosaur's face immediately darkened. There were so many points to roast that he didn't even know which one to address first. Don't think you can lie to me. The Rhino Man tried to get up, struggling. Humungosaur looked at this stubborn Rhino Man, also feeling a bit awkward. He didn't want to beat up a plumber anymore. He turned his head to look into the distance and simply said, Grandpa. Come here for a second. Calling your grandpa to prove it. Hey, unless your grandpa is max 10. The Rhino Man sneered, just as he started to speak. Max Tennyson walked over with large strides, his figure appearing at the alley entrance. The idol of all plumbers, the legend of the plumbers. Xiao Ran, who is trying to harm you again? I will definitely mobilize the power of the plumbers to finish them off. Max said with an angry face, clenching his fists and gritting his teeth. Now, he only had one grandson and one granddaughter left. Whoever touches these two, he will fight them to the death. Bang! The Rhino Man knelt on the ground. Senior Max. Rhino Man looked at Max, his voice trembling. This face, there was no mistaking it. This person was the spiritual totem of the plumbers, the legendary plumber, Max. Could his grandson be a glitch monster? Even if he really was, they wouldn't dare to capture him. Are you all new plumbers? Max looked at them with a straight face, walked quickly to them, and sternly scolded, when I was a plumber in the plumbers, I would never make the amateur mistake of misidentifying the enemy. The scene that followed was like a retired senior official lecturing a group of young juniors. Rhino Man listened, trembling with fear. The plumbers who had been frozen were lucky to escape unscathed. Once Xiao Ran kindly helped them unfreeze, they obediently stood with Rhino Man, listening to Max's lecture. System, open personal list. Xiao Ran stood to the side, silently speaking to the system in his mind. Host, Xiao Ran, rock solid heart. Watch, Omnitrix mode switch transformation duration, 20 minutes. Skills, plumber combat skills. Abilities, none. Items, none. Aliens, Swampfire, Chromastone, Energy Mage upgrade, Jetray, Humungosaur, Metal Scales, Big Chill, Feedback, Lightning Released Spider Monkey. Location, Error Universe. What's the situation with the question mark after Error Universe? System, never mind. After receiving no response for a long time, Xiao Ran gave up asking. His panel looked quite capable, he could probably dominate in a low martial arts world. But if the error Omnitrix came back, he would definitely die. Therefore, Xiao Ran wanted to become stronger quickly. He couldn't just rely on check in locations, he had to become stronger in this universe too. Grandpa. Xiao Ran thought for a moment, then looked at Max and the others with a determined gaze. The experiences of the past few days have made me want to be like you, an excellent plumber. I want to join the plumbers. Getting a government job is the best way out. Xiao Ran. Max felt a bit gratified, but still said, based on your achievements in dealing with the glitch monster, you are indeed qualified to be a plumber, but I don't think you are ready to be a hero yet. Besides, the plumbers aren't really short on people. Right. This period of time only had the glitch monster as a major event. It's not just the Earth sector, there's nothing going on in other sectors either. After Azimuth was killed by the hero Vilgax, the universe has been peaceful. The other plumbers chimed in, trembling with fear. They were dumbfounded. The glitch monster had actually been soloed by Xiao Ran. This was a sign that he was going to be their boss. Xiao Ran looked at this scene, his expression troubled. How is it possible that there isn't a single enemy? He gritted his teeth, hardened his heart, and asked. Let me ask you, what about Egregor, Jonah Melville, the Tianji organization? Xiao Ran reeled off the names of recognized villains in various parallel universes as if he were reciting a menu. But everyone listened with confused and terrified expressions, finally looking at Max in unison. Max's mouth twitched violently, and he stared at Xiao Ran strangely. Xiao Ran, why did you list some of the plumbers, undercover secret agents? Thump. Xiao Ran slowly knelt on the ground, his expression somewhat collapsed. Before, he was afraid that the error Omnitrix would chase him to give him check-in rewards. Now, he wanted the rewards. All the villains in the world were good people. This world was really targeting him. Beep, beep, beep. At this moment, the walkie-talkie on Rhino Man's body made a sound. Plumber Rhino Man, the glitch monster has caused cracks to appear in the sky all over the world. The sky all over the world had cracked. Xiao Ran's eyes lit up, and a touch of excitement bloomed. Maybe there is a place that needs me. However, it's already recovering. Xiao Ran's heart died instantly. Rhino Man looked up at the Washington sky. Washington, D.C. has recovered first. Presumably, the atmosphere in other places will also return to normal. The world is at peace. Except for Dr. Onimo, who had a straight face, the atmosphere among the crowd was jubilant. A world where only Xiao Ran was in despair had been achieved. Ah! Ah! Inside the museum, bursts of commotion and screams suddenly came, accompanied by the sound of gunfire. What's the situation? Max frowned and said, are there gangsters having a shootout inside? He slowly moved to go to the museum to maintain order. Ah! From the walkie-talkies in the hands of Rhino Man and the others, terrible screams also suddenly came. Zombies. Zombies are falling from the cracks in the sky. Quickly stop. Beep, beep, beep. As roars and wails came from each plumber's walkie-talkie, the communication stopped abruptly. Every person present couldn't believe their ears and stood there blankly. Dr. Onamo slowly moved forward, his expression incomparably ugly. When I saw that mysterious person before, I deduced the existence of parallel universes. Based on this, I suspect, the cracks the glitch monster opened in the sky are actually doors for him to travel through parallel universes. If he can travel over there, people from over there can also travel over here. He waved his hand vigorously and said resonantly. You mean, these zombies are monsters from another universe? How is that possible? Not just Rhino Man and the snake-faced man, the group of plumbers, even Max looked at Dr. Onamo in disbelief. He had been a plumber for so many years and had never seen such a thing. Only Xiao Ran was shocked, slowly looking at Dr. Onamo, his thoughts exploding. Error X Superman opened the door and was dragged away by Professor Paradox. And while the door hadn't completely closed, Zombie Ben, or zombies from some zombie universe, had come. And Error X Superman's first stop was actually the Zombie Ben universe. Bang! Bang! At this time, intense gunfire came from the museum again. A crooked figure rushed out of the museum gate. His chest had a penetrating wound caused by a bullet, but it didn't bleed much. Under everyone's trembling gaze, this person just staggered a few steps, then slowly stopped, and looked up at Max and the others. Goosebumps immediately rose on Xiao Ran's body, and a sense of nausea welled up. It was the face of a middle-aged man. The eye sockets couldn't see eyeballs, only maggots crawling in and out. The lips were completely torn, revealing rotten gums and the few remaining teeth. Such a face was countless times more terrifying than the zombies in any zombie movie. Ah! The zombie suddenly spread its hands and rushed towards Xiao Ran and the others, swaying. Under the premise that almost everyone hadn't reacted, Xiao Ran suddenly reached out, grabbed the laser gun from Rhino Man's belt, and unleashed a volley at the zombie's head. The laser hit the zombie's head, directly blowing his body into pieces. Who? Xiao Ran breathed heavily, looking at this scene nervously. It's okay now. If it weren't for the high-intensity life and death battles of the past 2 days, he would never have been able to do it so quickly. Before everyone could discuss it, fierce movements came from the museum again, but this time it wasn't gunfire. It was rapid footsteps. A large number of clawing and biting zombies broke through the gate, tore down the walls, and flooded the streets outside like a tsunami. Xiao Ran looked at this scene silently. Max's palms trembled slightly, searching for a figure in the crowd. Rhino Man and the others sat slumped on the ground, their performance very pathetic. The hardships brought by the Error Omnitrix hadn't ended, they had officially begun. Before he came to kill Xiao Ran and the others, he had to try his best to survive. Can the comments section add some settings for Zombie Ben? Urgently needed. Omnitrix, is the cooldown not over yet? After Xiao Ran realized this, he immediately looked at the Omnitrix on his wrist. The Omnitrix was in a cooldown state. Swoosh. Bang. Dr. Onamo suddenly reached out, snatched the laser gun from Rhino Man, and ran straight toward the back door of the museum. His running attracted quite a few zombies to chase after him. He fired his gun as he ran, showing absolutely no fear. Dr. Onamo. Xiao Ran stared at Dr. Onamo, dumbfounded, and said, isn't your genetic modulator useless too? Why run out there? He is going to save Gwen. Let him go. Max took a deep breath, his expression grave as he snatched the laser gun from the snake face man and kept landing headshots on the remaining zombies. I'll stay behind and protect you all. His words were resonant and powerful. Gwen, I can't let anything happen to her again. Xiao Ran clenched his fists tightly, anger surging in his heart. His original body was still too weak. It was completely useless. Unless, give me your guns too. Xiao Ran suddenly reached out and snatched the laser guns from the other two plumbers. He dual-wielded the laser guns, raised them clumsily, and aimed at the zombies in the distance. Let us handle it. The plumbers, already feeling guilty, hurriedly spoke to Xiao Ran, their trembling hands reaching out to take back the laser guns. My hands aren't shaking, I'll do it. Xiao Ran's eyes were determined. When facing battle, his heart quickly settled. His mindset crushed everyone except Max. But the system's sound ultimately caused a ripple in Xiao Ran's heart. Ding! A check-in has been triggered by the large horde of zombies infected with virus number 10. Check-in task. Please use the weapons in your hands to kill 100 zombies. Check-in reward. White reward. Xiao Ran didn't hesitate to pull the trigger. While firing, he observed Max's movements. Max's aiming techniques, stance, and positioning were all copied by him. But Xiao Ran was not Max. Although his hands were steady, his marksmanship was exceptionally terrible. The laser bullets completely whistled past the edges of the zombies. Rarely did Xiao Ran land a headshot on a zombie. Xiao Ran's expression darkened significantly, and a nameless fire rose in his chest. Can't I hit them? How am I supposed to complete the system task and cover Grandpa like this? At the museum entrance, more and more zombies swarmed out, stepping on the corpses of their companions as they rushed toward Xiao Ran and the others. Relying solely on Max's full firepower, he could only barely hold back the zombie army. Occasionally, a few zombies broke through the encirclement and charged at Xiao Ran and the others. Xiao Ran was still using his grazing marksmanship, failing to hit the zombies. Xiao Ran spat fiercely, his eyes filled with rage. Since I can't hit them, I'll just shorten the distance. Under the shocked, and even incredulous, gazes of everyone, Xiao Ran held the laser guns in both hands and strode forward like a lone hero, letting the zombies lunge at him with claws and fangs before he finally raised the laser guns. Bang! At close range. One by one, the zombies approaching Xiao Ran fell with their heads blown off. Blood sprayed all around Xiao Ran, reflecting off his sharp, incredibly determined face. Like the face of a warrior. Is this guy really a 10-year-old kid? It must be because Max's training is exceptionally strict. He probably has the bearing of the senior back in the day. The few plumbers present, while outputting fire with their meager 2 or 3 laser guns, marveled at Xiao Ran's actions. What are you all talking nonsense for? I wasn't even this brave back in the day. Max opened his mouth slightly, looking at Xiao Ran, who was charging forward alone, in disbelief. Continue. Xiao Ran's marksmanship even improved. Not only could he take out close-range zombies, but he could also occasionally snipe zombies from a distance. Although this was his first time attacking zombies that were once human. He was able to adapt quickly, even becoming calmer than before. Gradually. With Max and Xiao Ran, the old and the young, working together in tacit understanding. The corpses of the zombies piled up at the museum entrance, forming a small hill, blocking most of the zombies inside. Few zombies could run out, and those that did were instantly gunned down by laser bullets. Click. As Xiao Ran pulled the trigger again, the laser gun jammed because it was out of energy. Out of energy. Xiao Ran's sore hands finally got some relief, but he felt distressed inside. How am I supposed to farm rewards now? Xiao Ran, step back, let me handle it. I just need to block the main entrance, and then most of the zombies won't be able to get out. Max held his laser gun and fired at the zombies trying to squeeze out. Click. His also jammed. Forget it, Grandpa. Xiao Ran slowly lowered the laser gun, as if surrendering. Don't shoot anymore. We haven't completely blocked it yet, why give up? Rhino Man hurriedly said. If it doesn't work, I'll use rocks to block it. Bang bang bang. Xiao Ran dragged the laser gun and walked step by step to the museum entrance. Smelling the intense stench, watching the zombies trying to crawl out. Bang. Xiao Ran swung the butt of the laser gun violently, splitting open a zombie's head like a heavy axe. His hands immediately felt weak. If not for the bonus from his combat skills, they would likely have gone numb from just one hit. The zombie was headshot on the spot. Continue. Xiao Ran, with weak hands, pulled up the gun butt and struck hard again. One hit, then another, hacking at the zombie until it stopped moving. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward is plumber weapon mastery. With the crisp sound, countless weapon knowledge flooded into Xiao Ran's mind, as if he had fought countless rounds in battlefields and arenas using various weapons. His hands also developed a thick layer of calluses. Ah! Another zombie lunged with claws and fangs, reaching for the stationary Xiao Ran. Bang! The laser gun in Xiao Ran's hand fell to the ground in fright. The zombie quickly closed in on his body. Xiao Ran. Oh no, he's exhausted. Max hurried over, but he was even more exhausted, collapsing onto one knee. He couldn't save his grandson. Boom. Xiao Ran, expressionless, suddenly raised his hand. He was still holding the cone-shaped magazine of the laser gun, smashing it into the zombie's skull like a chisel. He switched to using the magazine as a weapon. Isn't that an even shorter weapon? Rhino Man, the Snake Face Man, and other plumbers clenched their fists nervously, unable to see the trick. Only Max held his breath. Bang! Xiao Ran's magazine instantly cracked open the zombie's skull, and he dodged to the side, avoiding the blood. And the zombie instantly stopped moving. Killed in one hit. This is plumber weapon mastery. The principle is to use the least amount of effort to cause the maximum amount of damage. Max was stunned, unable to imagine such a scene even if he racked his brain. Could this also have been scared out by the error Omnitrix? Grandpa, I was really wrong just now, I wasted a lot of effort. If it were me now, that same effort could kill 10 zombies. Xiao Ran's cold gaze swept across the ground, everything was his weapon. Click. With a crisp sound, the Omnitrix emitted an alluring green light. I want to use an alien to demonstrate plumber martial arts and weapon mastery. It's going to be awesome. Xiao Ran's lips slowly curled up, his expression cold. Then, with a casual strike, he easily cracked open another zombie's head, completely sealing the entrance. A huge increase in his original body's combat power meant a qualitative leap in the combat power of every alien. At the entrance of the museum, the pile of zombie corpses reeked intensely, attracting countless flies and mosquitoes to feed on them in a short time. And those flies and mosquitoes seemed to have changed after feeding. This zombie virus, it can be preliminarily determined, is transmitted through blood. Mark looked at this scene cautiously and reminded, Xiao Ran, stay away. Okay. Xiao Ran even controlled his breathing, hurriedly stepped back a few paces, and put some distance between them. The atmosphere fell into silence. Grandpa. Xiao Ran looked resolutely toward the back door of the museum and said in a deep voice, I think I should go save Gwen and Dr. Onimo. Only I have the ability to do so. If we go together. Mark said directly to Xiao Ran without hesitation. Whoosh. A flash of light flickered. Big Chill appeared on the spot. He waved his hand gently, and countless frigid air instantly froze the sea of corpses and blood, and even the flies and mosquitoes. A mere zombie crisis. Is it stronger than a full alien hero? Grandpa, no need. You underestimate the power of an alien hero too much. Big Chill clenched his fist slightly and said in a cold voice. What he needed to do was to save everyone and wipe out the zombies. Then find the potentially existing zombie Ben and take him out. Don't forget, what he possesses is the complete Ben, which is a T0 tier existence among Transformers. Whoosh. Not giving anyone a reason to refuse, Big Chill took a step and turned invisible on the spot. The Snake Man spoke up suddenly, saying, be careful when opening the back door. My thermal sensors detected over a dozen zombies at the back door. Thanks, plumbers. Big Chill's faint voice of thanks rang out. Museum, back door. Big Chill stood there, reached out his hand, and gently twisted open the door. Bang. As the door opened, zombie after zombie rushed out impatiently, but they stood in place, puzzled, twisting their heads to look around. It looked like they still had a shred of intelligence left. Just like Zombie Ben, they have a tiny bit of brain, but not much. Big Chill thought to himself while taking a deep breath. Whoosh tilde. He exhaled gently, turning the surrounding zombies into ice sculptures. Then, he glanced at the zombies and slowly walked into the back door of the museum. Upon entering, the previously empty dinosaur exhibition hall was now packed with zombies. And zombies kept pouring in from the large museum on the other side. It's unimaginable how many zombies there really are. With a cautious expression, Big Chill took a deep breath and wove through the zombie crowd. His gaze fell upon the office. The office door was tightly shut, and zombie after zombie lay on the ground in front of the door with their heads blown off. Inside the door, Dr. Onomo's lab coat was covered in blood, looking quite gruesome. Yet his face wore a smile as he heartwarmingly encouraged Gwen Tennyson, who was covering her mouth and crying nearby. All right, it's okay now. Didn't we break out thanks to you? After we get out, I'll have your grandpa take you home. Woo. What just happened to me? Gwen Tennyson held back her sobs, looking at her own hands thoughtfully. Whoosh. The figure of Big Chill suddenly appeared in front of the two. Ah! Gwen Tennyson let out a scream, startled. Holy shit. Dr. Onomo was also startled, his mouth twitching violently. Xiao Ran, you're going to scare us to death. Bang, bang, bang. Violent pounding came from the tightly closed office door. Don't worry, everyone. Big Chill's body suddenly radiated a large amount of DNA. His genes were reorganized, and a new pair of arms burst out. A four-eyed, four-armed monkey appeared on the spot. He whipped his tail, landing it on the door, and released a large amount of sturdy spider silk, patching the door into a white fortress. No matter how fiercely the zombies rammed, they couldn't break the door. All right. Spider Monkey sighed in relief and walked expressionlessly to the wall. Now, I'll get you out. Bang. He struck a fighting pose, using all four hands to deliver fierce Muay Thai strikes, smashing violently into the wall. Large holes were smashed into the wall, and it quickly collapsed. Done. Spider Monkey lowered his arms nonchalantly and pointed at the hole. You guys go first. Compared to other aliens, Spider Monkey had an extra pair of hands, so he could greatly raise the upper limit of his combat skills. His combat skills could easily crush any two-handed species. You are the strongest plumber I've ever seen. After Dr. Onomo exclaimed in shock, he quickly led Gwen Tennyson out through the hole. Spider Monkey also took a step, following closely behind. Just as he reached the hole and was about to step out. Ding! Zombie army sign in triggered. Sign in task. Please choose to use your current alien to patch the hole in the wall, then stay behind to make a last stand against the zombie army. Sign in reward. Green reward. Spider Monkey's steps stopped. Xiao Ran, come out quickly. Gwen Tennyson looked at Spider Monkey nervously, urging him. Spider Monkey was silent for a moment, his eyes becoming firm, as if nothing could shake him. In the past, I was chased by the error Omnitrix and had no choice. Now I have a choice, and I just want to be a good guy. So, I choose to stay behind like a hero and take out this group of zombies. Bang! Spider Monkey turned around abruptly, whipped his tail, and patched the wall with spider silk. His heroic declaration still rang deafeningly. The plumbers outside couldn't believe their eyes. Rhino Man slapped himself hard, his face full of regret and unease. How could he have mistaken such a hero for an error alien? It seems. At this moment, Xiao Ran is ready to be a hero. Mark, who had been silent all along, sighed softly, seeing the determination in Xiao Ran's tone. Regardless of what that determination was for, it proved one thing. Xiao Ran was ready to be a hero. Bang! Spider Monkey extended his fist, punched through the patched spider silk with one hand, allowing the zombies to tear open the spider web. Hurry up, you scum. I can't wait to get my sign in reward. Spider Monkey's eyes flashed with terrifying red light, and he said grimly. No matter what the sign in task is. Whether the enemy is the error Omnitrix or Zombie Ben. He won't let any of them go. Bang! A zombie's head suddenly burst through a hole in the spider web, and it began twisting its head to bite while pressed against the sturdy webbing. It was like it was devouring cotton candy, making the hole wider and wider. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward. Targeted enhancement opportunity X1. Why is it still an enhancement opportunity? Spider Monkey clearly remembered that white rewards were for enhancement opportunities. Why was a green one the same type of reward? Wait. This reward has the word, targeted, in front of it. System, activate targeted enhancement opportunity. Spider Monkey narrowed his eyes, a guess forming in his mind. Swish. The next second, a virtual electronic screen appeared before his eyes. On the left side of the electronic screen was a 3D model of Spider Monkey, spinning around like a roast duck. On the right were his various abilities. First ability, Monkey Web unenhanced. Second ability, Super Coordination unenhanced. Third ability, Wall Crawling unenhanced. Spider Monkey looked at the panel, his heartbeat suddenly quickening, and his mouth curled into a smile. As expected, targeted enhancement allows one to specify an ability to enhance. First, rule out wall crawling. How am I supposed to wall crawl in this small place? Not to mention super coordination. No matter how skilled my movements are, I can't defeat so many zombies. Spider Monkey set his sights on Monkey Web system. I want to enhance Monkey Web. Ding! Enhancement successful. Spider Monkey's Monkey Web has been enhanced to Doflamingo strings. Hiss! Spider Monkey gasped and suddenly turned to look at his tail. The tip of his tail, which stored the webbing, suddenly swelled up, looking like a war hammer. The inside of his tail was filled with a throbbing sensation. The enhanced webbing felt as if it were ready to burst forth. Ah! A figure suddenly burst through the spiderweb, and several figures burst through together. Several zombies opened their mouths, viciously gnashing at Spider Monkey, who stood his ground. Swish! Spider Monkey's tail gave a jolt, suddenly shooting out an incredibly fine strand of webbing. It was so fine it was like a thread from a ball of yarn. Huh! Max stood outside with a look of disbelief, his heart rate spiking. How is there only this little bit of webbing left? Shoot more, buddy. No. You have to know when to play the hero. The others were even more distraught, stomping their feet and shouting. Xiao Ran is throwing his life away this time. Who is going to deal with the zombie version of Xiao Ran? Click. A crisp collision sound rang out. The sharp webbing, like a divine weapon, pierced through the heads of several zombies without any resistance. The nervous systems of the zombies were completely destroyed, and after a brief struggle, they stopped moving. Instantly killed a few zombies. Outside, a group of hillbilly plumbers hadn't yet reacted. Swish! Spider Monkey raised his tail and gave it a gentle flick. Those sharp lines swung out. Click clack. Most of the zombies standing outside the door suddenly stopped in their tracks. Their heads flew high into the air, leaving only headless corpses behind. And Spider Monkey's almost transparent lines had turned bright red, appearing exceptionally striking. Like a blood-red scythe, reaping countless zombies. Instantly killed dozens of zombies. Rhino Man, Snake Man, and the other plumbers' eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. None of them could believe their eyes. Max and Gwen Tennyson looked at Dr. Onimo instantly. Dr. Onimo looked as if his worldview had been overturned. This isn't scientific. Why did the spiderweb suddenly change its structure and become a divine weapon? Only a divine weapon could describe Spider Monkey's webbing. Time to start reaping the harvest. Spider Monkey smiled suddenly. He leapt up suddenly, actually jumping out of the spiderweb hole and arriving at the dinosaur museum outside. The zombies in the immediate circle had all fallen, but countless more zombies were surging in from near and far, which was terrifying. Let's blow you all up first. Spider Monkey leapt again, jumping onto the ceiling. The lines from his tail began to rapidly gather, forming a white bullet. Bang! The white bullet fell slowly, landing toward the group of zombies. Bullet-shaped spiderweb. Dr. Onimo swallowed hard, his face full of disbelief. Rumble. The spiderweb landed in the zombie horde, and like a bomb, it blasted a large number of zombies apart. This, which looked like a bullet, was actually an even more terrifying bomb. The blooming spiderweb instantly turned the dinosaur museum into a spider's nest, sticking countless zombies that wanted to get up. Bang! Spider Monkey landed in the museum once more. He took a deep breath, spread his forearms, and was clearly gripping sharp strands of webbing in his hands. In his mind, a figure gradually appeared. It was the figure of a martial artist, wielding a sharp blade, ending the invading enemies with crisp and clean sword techniques. Inside the field, Spider Monkey walked forward, clutching strands of webbing, the webbing in his hands spinning. Everywhere he went, all zombies instantly went quiet, dying on the spot. Even within 10 meters of him, there wasn't a single zombie left standing. Spider Monkey walked step by step. The museum quieted down bit by bit. Zombie heads kept falling to the ground. This time, Spider Monkey had combined the techniques of the plumbers, his alien abilities, and his enhanced abilities, playing an absolutely winning game. Xiao ran. Dr. Onamo took a deep breath and shouted a reminder. Remember, there are more zombies in the outer museum. He couldn't bear to say the last word. So many people had just become zombies like that. Don't worry. I have more than just this much ability. Spider Monkey's understated remark refreshed the worldview of a certain biology doctor once again. A moment later, the dinosaur museum was completely quiet, with only corpses for company with Spider Monkey. He walked step by step toward the outer museum. The so-called Doflamingo strings just mean my webbing now possesses the power of the string fruit. In other words, my webbing is now capable of anything. Bang! Spider Monkey stepped into the outer museum, and facing the massive zombie army, he raised his tail to aim at the ceiling. A strand of webbing instantly bloomed, piercing through the ceiling, soaring out of the museum, and landing on a cloud. Boom! Spider Monkey's body instantly catapulted into the air, using the cloud as an anchor point, swinging throughout the entire museum. And all he had to do was let the sharp webbing in his hands drop down. Swish, swish, swish. Countless zombies stopped moving and dropped dead. What a joke. How is this a Grim Reaper's scythe? Even a Grim Reaper's scythe isn't as fast at reaping as Spider Monkey's webbing. 100 Light Yagami's writing in Death Notes as fast as they could might be this fast. A dozen minutes later, at the entrance of the museum, Xiao Ran was half kneeling on the ground, almost exhausted, his hands trembling weakly, a tired smile on his face. I told you, a mere zombie crisis couldn't stump an alien hero. The museum behind him. The zombies had been completely cleared out. A dozen minutes to resolve a severe disaster-level mission. This is the power of an alien hero. I thought he was going hard on us before, but now I see he was holding back. The plumbers present looked at each other, their expressions complex. Compared to Xiao Ran, this demon king, they were practically more fragile than ordinary people. Across from the museum, with Max's support, Xiao Ran arrived at the empty convenience store, grabbed a water bottle, and drank it down in big gulps. Gwen Tennyson leaned against the other side, tearing open a tissue, mixing it with mineral water, and wiping the filth from her skin. At the entrance of the convenience store, Dr. Onamo, Rhino Man, and the others were whispering about something. A moment later, Xiao Ran finished the water, his body recovered slightly, and he steadily pushed open the door and stepped outside. He looked at Dr. Onamo and tossed him a bottle of beer. I don't know what you like to drink. Hey, German beer, it's my favorite. Dr. Onamo took the beer, excitedly pulled the tab, and began to guzzle it down. Where are you guys heading next? Xiao Ran asked the group, looking eager. Although it's classified, telling you directly is fine. Rhino Man didn't intend to hide it and honestly said, we plan to return to the plumbers' headquarters, Mount Rushmore. We need to go there to retrieve various weapons so we can fight back against the zombies. And, Dr. Onamo tossed the can into the trash like a basketball and said, there are advanced laboratories there, where I can conduct research on the zombies. In short, except for the plumbers staying behind to control the situation, the vast majority of plumbers would head to Mount Rushmore. They would make preparations there before returning to crusade and eradicate the zombie crisis. Not bad. Xiao Ran's eyes lit up, and his breathing quickened. Not to mention how many skill-related check-ins the plumber's base would trigger. The amount of intelligence that could be gathered at the base alone was countless. It would be enough for Xiao Ran to farm check-in rewards fiercely. Want to come? Dr. Onamo raised an eyebrow and asked expectantly. With you there, the plumbers' overall chances of winning would increase significantly. Bang! The door opened, and Max walked out with Gwen Tennyson, his tone firm. We won't be going, let's part ways here. Grandpa, are you sure? Xiao Ran looked at Max and asked, unable to hold back. Xiao Ran. Max gently patted Gwen Tennyson's shoulder. She looked terrified. We must get Gwen back to Bellwood first, she's really scared. Xiao Ran, I just want to go home now. Gwen Tennyson pleaded, her voice sounding like she was about to cry. This summer vacation was absolutely demonic. She couldn't hold it together anymore. Gwen Tennyson, on the verge of a mental breakdown, just wanted to go home. Almost forgot, there's still Gwen, and my parents, they all need protection. After calming down, Xiao Ran nodded silently, agreeing with Max's opinion. Thus, the three of them earnestly said goodbye to Dr. Onamo and his group. Before hitting the road, everyone gathered to hit up gas stations, supermarkets, and various other places to fully collect supplies. Afterward, Max drove the Rust Bucket, taking Xiao Ran and Gwen Tennyson out of Washington, D.C. Dr. Onamo sat in the off-road vehicle that Rhino Man and the others had driven, heading in the opposite direction toward Mount Rushmore. The two teams parted ways. Washington, D.C. fell into silence. Bang, bang. In the museum, within a pile of zombies. A stumbling figure crawled out from the pile of zombies. He limped out of the museum, emitting a stiff, cold voice. Annoying, first I took a hard fall, then I was almost split in two, what bad luck. Sunlight shone on him. This was a boy with dull skin, no visible hair, and a skull-like appearance. He seemed to have been zombified for a long time. And on his wrist, there was, shockingly, a watch. Decided. Zombie Ben stiffly turned his head, looking toward the position of the Rust Bucket. First I'll follow you guys, eat you, then deal with whatever plumbers, after that, it's the error Omnitrix you mentioned, I'll eat them all. He was going to go on a killing spree. Shoo! With a burst of eerie purple light, a terrifying giant beast began to sprint down the road. On the highway, Max was driving with intense focus, not even turning on the music or the radio. Xiao Ran and Gwen Tennyson sat on either side, staring intently at the scene outside the window. This highway led to Bellwood. The road was quite quiet, with hardly anyone around. This was thanks to the error Omnitrix having scared people away earlier, otherwise, the road would surely have been congested, potentially leading to disaster. Gwen. Xiao Ran observed outside the window and suddenly asked curiously, how did you and Dr. Onamo manage to escape into that small office? Dr. Onamo came in through the back door first, blew up the zombie that was about to eat me, and then we were surrounded by zombies, and I. Gwen Tennyson looked at her hands nervously, just as she was about to say something. Shoo! The Rust Bucket suddenly slowed down, and Max's pleasantly surprised voice sounded. There are quite a few people driving ahead. Xiao Ran immediately rushed to the passenger seat and looked out at the road. Ahead, there were cars driving outward. Because they didn't have enough fuel, they were quite slow. Humans, after all, are social animals. Having others around made both Max and Xiao Ran feel at ease. Looks like they are just like us, trying to escape to Bellwood. Xiao Ran said to Max with a smile. Whoosh! A flash suddenly appeared before his eyes, as if a streak of golden light had streaked by. Xiao Ran was instantly jolted, and just as he was nervously looking around, the Rust Bucket stopped. To be precise, the car in front had stopped. The owner of the car, a hippie with an afro wearing rock clothes and looking like a singer, walked out. Hey, old man, do you guys have any gas? My car really can't run anymore. We have some here. Max had just opened his mouth to answer the person. Poochie. A golden light bathed his entire body, his afro exploded completely, and his whole person fell to the ground, unrecognizable. It was as if he had been electrocuted by high-voltage electricity. Xiao Ran keenly sensed the golden light, his heart pounding. Bang! Another sound rang out, and a skinny figure slammed violently against the passenger side window. It was a freakish alien that looked like a battery with limbs. He was covered in blood, opening his remaining incisors to gnaw at the window. However, the Rust Bucket's windows and body had been specially reinforced. This freakish alien couldn't bite through it at all. Ah! Gwen Tennyson's scream rang out, and Xiao Ran was also scared into shrinking back, swearing, how did a freak suddenly appear? Bang bang bang! Streaks of golden light swept past the Rust Bucket at this moment, slamming into other vehicles. They easily smashed open the other cars, and screams from the car owners immediately rang out from inside. Before long, the afro-haired man who had fallen to the ground stumbled back up. At this point, Xiao Ran, having recovered his senses, looked at the zombie feedback still gnawing outside the window, his scalp tingling. Grandpa, it looks like aliens have been infected with the zombie virus. On the human side, there are alien heroes. On the zombie side, there are zombie alien freaks. Unfortunately, the feedbacks had become zombies, and relying on their extremely fast speed advantage, they had actually killed their way here. At the very back of the road. Zombie Ben stepped on the body of the zombie feedback and slowly reached out his hand. Your DNA, I'll take it. Ah. The man with the afro transformed completely into a zombie feedback and lunged at the hood of the rust bucket, but it was just as useless. The biting of the zombie feedback had no effect either. None of them could penetrate this fortress-like rust bucket. Ding! Zombie feedback has triggered a check-in. Check-in task. Please wipe out all the zombie feedbacks, leave none behind, and make a contribution to humanity. Check-in reward. Green reward. Xiao Ran almost cursed when he saw this task. Wipe them out. With what? He dared to fight ordinary zombies because he was confident that ordinary zombies couldn't bite an alien hero. But zombie feedback was different. Xiao Ran, I'm going to drive us out. You and Gwen buckle your seatbelts. Max slowly pressed his foot onto the accelerator, his eyes narrowing. All right, Grandpa. Xiao Ran hurriedly buckled his seatbelt, not forgetting to tell Gwen Tennyson to do the same. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A full 7 or 8 zombie feedbacks rushed out from inside the vehicle. They were chewing on fingers in their mouths, and as they surrounded the rust bucket, dazzling electric light began to bloom from their bodies. Oh no. Max looked at the electric light coming from all directions, his heart sinking. If they hit us, the windshield will shatter. There's no other choice, I'll go. Xiao Ran had no choice, he quickly stood up and strode to the car door. When the moment of battle actually arrived, he became calm, his heart as still as water. Ha! He. The zombie feedbacks saw Xiao Ran through the window and immediately laughed excitedly. They lined up in front of the rust bucket's door as if they were queuing. Everyone would get a turn. The rust bucket's door opened slightly, and a zombie feedback flew impatiently toward the figure opening the door. Bang! The zombie feedback slammed into the figure, only to be knocked back several meters by the recoil, collapsing heavily to the ground. He tried to get up but couldn't move. Because his flesh and blood body had been almost crushed. Bang! Chromastone slammed the door shut and walked over to the immobilized zombie feedback. He stepped on it as if crushing a small chick, instantly grinding it into smithereens. Ah! The Afro zombie feedback lunged with claws bared, only to be shattered by a backhand punch from Chromastone, crumbling like tofu dregs. Come on. Chromastone shook the bloodstains off his fist, his eyes terrifying. Try using your teeth and see if you can bite through my crystal body. Roar. Seeing this, the zombie feedbacks roared violently. Food, and yet there exists a situation where it can't be eaten. Absolutely impossible. Whoosh. A zombie feedback suddenly raised its hand and whipped out a bolt of electric light, which exploded on Chromastone, releasing a large amount of smoke. Amidst the swirling smoke, Chromastone's figure remained unmoved. Seeing this, the rest of the zombie feedbacks simply raised their hands together, condensing slender bolts of electric light. Bang bang bang. Bolts of electric light exploded on Chromastone one after another. Smoke swirled. From beginning to end, Chromastone didn't move a step, only raising his hand. After a full minute or so, the zombie feedbacks lowered their hands. Although they didn't have physiological fatigue, their power had been mostly consumed. Chromastone was still standing in the same spot. A breeze blew by, carrying away the smoke. His body was spotless and completely unharmed. His purple crystal body, under the repeated bombardment of electricity, became even more dazzling and exquisite. And it even got cooler. Is that all you've got? Continue. Chromastone patted his chest and said in a deep voice. A piece of trash that only knows how to take a beating is actually this arrogant. Kill him. At this moment, in the simple minds of the zombie feedbacks, there was only rage rising rapidly. They desperately clenched their hands, once again squeezing out wisps of electric current. Several currents stacked together, forming an impact, but it was once again blocked by Chromastone with one hand. No elemental energy attack could hurt him. That's amazing, this alien completely surpasses these freaks. Gwen Tennyson watched, her heart surging with excitement, and she waved her fist excitedly. We're going to win. There is one drawback, the speed of these little aliens is much faster than Chromastone. Max narrowed his eyes slightly, looking at Chromastone's side. The zombie feedbacks couldn't do anything to the tanky Chromastone. And Chromastone couldn't necessarily hit the feedbacks. The energy absorption is just about done. Chromastone slowly lowered his hand, feeling the terrifying energy about to erupt within his body. The zombie feedbacks seemed to anticipate something. They began to squeeze out their remaining power and retreated in all directions. Their speed was so fast that Chromastone couldn't catch up at all. Chromastone stood in place, unmoving, as if he had given up. Whoosh! DNA fluctuations rippled over his body, and his form began to rapidly restructure. Is he switching aliens? Feedback. Max and Gwen Tennyson had countless alien figures flash through their minds, finally settling on Feedback. A light flashed by. Feedback appeared in place, his eyes flashing with intermittent lightning, his expression arrogant. I said I would wipe you all out, not one of you is allowed to run. Golden energy flared instantly from his body. The massive energy absorbed by Chromastone caused Feedback's strength to skyrocket. Chromastone is in charge of absorption. Feedback is the one responsible for reaping. Boom. Feedback stomped his foot on the ground, the lightning energy on his body bloomed, and he shot out like a thunderbolt. The road he stepped on was blasted into a charred crater. A zombie Feedback was flying low over the road, its mood gradually relaxing. Boom. With a roar, a fierce wind whipped up. The zombie Feedback stopped immediately, turning around in fear to face the battle. As it turned around, there was no one in front of it. It had to suspect that it had misheard. That guy who looked so slow. How could it possibly have caught up? Cough, cough. A coughing sound rang out. The zombie Feedback's expression stiffened, and it mechanically turned around to look straight ahead. Straight ahead, 20 meters away. Feedback slowly rose from the ground, his magnificent lightning burning fiercely like fire. He looked back at the zombie Feedback, his expression regretful. I estimated I could ram you to death, but my speed is even faster than I imagined. Boom. A thunderous strike instantly pierced through this zombie Feedback. Blood bloomed. Feedback froze dozens of meters away, not a drop of blood on him. If you are fast enough, you won't be stained by any of the zombies' foul-smelling blood. Bang bang bang. Immediately after, on the road, in the sky, everywhere, one zombie Feedback after another was caught, pursued, and died miserably at the hands of Feedback. But even after he killed the last zombie Feedback that had escaped, the task was not completed. Strange. Feedback flew back to the location of the rust bucket, landing slowly on the ground, his expression puzzled. Where is the last zombie Feedback? Ah! A head suddenly popped out from under the rust bucket, opening its teeth to bite Feedback's toe. Ah! Zombie Feedback had just barely touched Feedback's toe when he was jolted by bursts of thunderous energy, causing him to scream. His mouth was even scorched into cooked meat. Idiot. Feedback stood in place, looking disdainful, his golden aura constantly flickering. Someone of your caliber thinks you're worthy of biting through Feedback's defenses. Even the error Omnitrix doesn't have that capability. Woo woo. Zombie Feedback covered his mouth, looking at Feedback pitifully, appearing as if he were begging for mercy. Feedback watched this scene, slowly lowering his raised hand. He sighed and stepped aside. Ah! Zombie Feedback nodded excitedly, hurriedly ran out from under the car, and flew toward the high sky. Boom! A bolt of lightning struck him, turning him into fireworks. Phew tilde. Feedback lowered his smoking finger, calmly admiring the alien fireworks in the sky. Idiot, I let you out because I was afraid you'd blow up the rust bucket along with us. Ding! Check-in successful. Check-in reward. XLR8. As the crisp sound rang out, Feedback was instantly overjoyed and clenched his fist tightly. A single XLR8 might seem ordinary. In reality, it made up for Xiao Ran's lack of a ground-based speed alien. With XLR8 added, the Omnitrix could truly be called all-around combat ready. Xiao Ran, even while in transformation state, don't stay outside for too long. Max carefully opened the car door and shouted at Feedback. Okay, Grandpa. Feedback lifted his feet and walked over. The moment he got on, he raised his finger and blasted the few zombie humans trapped in the car into dust. Threat neutralized. Inside the rust bucket, Xiao Ran and Gwen Tennyson were each sitting in their seats, seatbelts fastened. Max was extremely careful, slowly turning the steering wheel and maneuvering the rust bucket to steer around the parked vehicles. We just need to drive to the highway. In a few hours at most, we can reach Bellwood. Brace yourselves. He slowly pressed the accelerator, and the rust bucket began to accelerate fiercely. Bang! Even with his seatbelt fastened, Xiao Ran's body slammed hard against the back seat, and the scenery outside the window flew by rapidly. Gwen Tennyson had long since pressed herself against the back seat, staring at Xiao Ran with a smile. Xiao Ran, you'll get used to it after hitting it once. Last night when I used upgrade to drive, you guys probably hit it even harder. Xiao Ran revealed an embarrassed smile and joked. After all, they were heading home, so everyone's mood had eased up quite a bit. Behind them on the road, the completely zombified feedback flew over with a strange laugh. I'm coming to catch you guys right now. Whoosh! The rust bucket gradually slowed down and stopped at the highway entrance. The three people in the car all fell silent, somewhat unable to believe what they were seeing. The entire highway looked as if it had been destroyed by some huge creature, completely leveled to the ground. The road being destroyed meant the rust bucket could not reach Bellwood as hoped. How could this happen? The road is gone. Gwen Tennyson covered her mouth with both hands, trying her best to suppress her emotions, and said in a trembling voice, "We can't just walk there, can we?" It was the error Omnitrix. He used Super Giant to destroy the nearby highway. Max powerlessly let go of the steering wheel and said, enunciating every word. The only road they had to Bellwood was gone. Then what do we do? Do we walk there, or should Brother Xiao Chen go pick people up, or what? Gwen Tennyson unbuckled her seatbelt, leaned against the window, and stared at the road back, speaking in a somewhat broken manner. At this moment, Max looked at Xiao Ran. The two people, the two heroes, looked at each other, their eyes gradually shifting from despair to a kind of sacred determination. Max clenched his fist slightly, his tone unwavering. Xiao Ran, I think you are ready to be a hero now. We don't need to go to Bellwood, but to Mount Rushmore. Xiao Ran's heart trembled, his gaze shifting from his initial excitement to a trace of enlightened pain. Initially, he was excited to know he was going to become a hero. Until this moment, he realized one thing. Being a hero requires sacrificing many things. This is not something worth being excited about. This is a road full of pain and suffering. Xiao Ran, Grandpa, what do you mean by this? Are we going to give up on my mom and dad, and uncle and aunt? Gwen Tennyson was even more devastated, pacing back and forth in front of the two, her eyes filled with helplessness. To save people, we must first save the world. Otherwise, Bellwood, and countless other Bellwoods, will not receive true salvation. We have no other choice, and only Xiao Ran can make this choice. Max was just like when he gave up his family to become a plumber. Now, he also turned the rust bucket around and drove in the opposite direction. Xiao Ran remained silent, but he had already painfully made his choice. One day, he would unlock Alien X, who could reverse everything, and even strengthen Alien X. Save Ben, and change the world back. And then, Ben, you go be that hero. Whoosh! The rust bucket turned around completely and drove back the way it came. Not only that, the rust bucket activated acceleration mode, with balancing devices protruding from both sides like airplane wings, and rocket thrusters erupting from the rear, speeding back with all its might. Max had wanted to do this for a long time. It was just that the broken highway had ignited the emotions of him and Xiao Ran. He. Not far away, Zombie Ben was flying along the road, wearing a wicked smile. Follow you guys, and then bite you to death. He suddenly stopped and landed on the road. The wicked smile on his face froze, turning into intense fear. The car is driving over. Bang! The next moment, the rust bucket instantly sent Zombie Ben flying in midair, and drove violently back the way it came. After spinning 49 times in midair, Zombie Ben fell to the ground like a free-falling object. Woo woo woo. He covered his twisted features, nosebleed streaming, and when he opened his mouth, all his teeth had fallen out. I will kill you all. I will tear you to pieces. Inside the car, Max stared at a trace of blood on the windshield with a confused look, muttering in confusion, what's going on? Where did the blood come from? You all stop going. Let's go back. Gwen Tennyson stood in the back, muttering to herself the whole time. Gwen, calm down, Xiao Ran tried to comfort Gwen Tennyson, his voice very humble, feeling extremely guilty inside. He shouldn't have dragged Gwen Tennyson, a normal person, into this. But there was no other way now. I said. Gwen Tennyson suddenly widened her eyes, unbuckled her seatbelt, and her tone became furious. Can you stop the car? Boom. Pink light bloomed from her body, powerful mana bathing her entire form, making her appear like a deity. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The rust bucket slammed on the brakes, the tires grinding against the road until they were almost smoking, drifting off the road as if performing a drift maneuver. Inside the vehicle, it was a mess, with items scattered everywhere. Gwen Tennyson didn't move an inch, standing steadily where she was, her golden eyes fixed on Xiao Ran. Brother Xiao Ran, let's go back and fight. Gwen, how did you become like this? Xiao Ran's pupils dilated, and he looked at the Gwen Tennyson in front of him in near shock. Max was equally incredulous, speaking in astonishment. Gwen, what on earth is going on? Even your parents never possessed this kind of power. I don't know what's going on. Looking at the two shocked people, Gwen Tennyson's expression shifted slightly, and her tone carried a hint of anxiety. When Dr. Onamo and I were surrounded by zombies earlier, this light suddenly erupted from my body and blasted the zombies away. In moments of extreme despair and oppression, this power seems to release itself. This is the mana of an anodite. Xiao Ran and Max answered Gwen Tennyson's question in unison. Max cast a surprised glance at Xiao Ran, secretly amazed by Xiao Ran's level of knowledge. He calmed down and spoke frankly. Gwen, actually, you and Ben's grandmother are a type of alien called an anodite. These aliens possess a terrifying energy called mana. Then why aren't my parents aliens? I mean, at least there should be some signs, right? Gwen Tennyson asked, spreading her hands in confusion. I suspect that mana skips a generation. Your dad doesn't have mana, but you do. And, your talent seems to be very high. Max felt both excited and a trace of relief. If Gwen is an alien, her ability to ensure survival is undoubtedly greatly enhanced. Xiao Ran smiled, feeling genuinely happy from the bottom of his heart. Gwen in this universe has such strong talent for mana. Now she can protect herself too. Both he and Max were genuinely happy for Gwen Tennyson. However, this thriving atmosphere didn't last long. Gwen Tennyson suppressed her smile, her tone turning cold. So, Xiao Ran, Grandpa, let's go back to Bellwood and fight. How about it? Xiao Ran and Max both fell silent. Unable to bear the oppressive atmosphere, Gwen Tennyson strode to the car door and gently twisted the handle. Click. The handle exploded, directly blowing the door open. Gwen Tennyson picked up the handle, carefully placed it on the table, and then strode aggressively out of the rust bucket. Since you guys won't go, I'll go by myself. She walked alone, step by step along the road back home. Xiao Ran immediately got up, wanting to chase after her. Xiao Ran, don't go over just yet. Max looked at Xiao Ran and sighed. Wait for Gwen to walk a few dozen meters, and when she gets tired, we'll go pick her up and slowly persuade her. Grandpa, you're still the experienced one. Xiao Ran realized this and smiled helplessly. Kids, after all, always have their rebellious phases. It's not bad that Gwen is only being rebellious now. The two watched Gwen Tennyson's retreating figure, waiting silently. Gwen Tennyson indeed paused her steps, stopping 10 meters away. She lowered her head thoughtfully, aiming both hands at the ground. Bang! The mana formed a shockwave, striking the ground heavily, and Gwen Tennyson's body was launched into the air, flying towards the distance. Grandpa, Gwen is flying. Gwen's talent for mana is more powerful than I imagined. Looking at Gwen Tennyson's retreating figure, Xiao Ran couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Max was also full of relief, marveling at Gwen Tennyson's learning ability. Ding! Gwen Tennyson has triggered a check-in. Check-in task. Please bring Gwen Tennyson back to the rust bucket and make her willing to return with you. Check-in reward. White reward. Whoosh! Xiao Ran sprang directly from his seat, dashed out of the rust bucket, and looked stunned. Gwen flew, she flew away. Xiao Ran. Max couldn't hold back either, even pulling out a laser gun. We have to find a way to bring Gwen back. In the sky, Gwen Tennyson's figure moved further and further away, showing no sign of stopping. She had created the coolest way to run away from home. Grandpa, I'll go chase her, don't worry. While staring at Gwen Tennyson's figure running ahead, Xiao Ran blindly tapped the Omnitrix and pressed the screen. Whoosh! Big Chill appeared on the spot, and he simply spread his wings and flew towards Gwen Tennyson. Xiao Ran, I advise you not to try to persuade me to go back. Gwen Tennyson's tone carried a hint of chill, as if she had become a different person, looking at Big Chill. Gwen, we only have one choice. Go to Mount Rushmore. Otherwise, even if we save the people of Bellwood, sooner or later they will be eaten by the alien zombies. While flying towards Gwen Tennyson, Big Chill patiently tried to persuade her. Cut the chatter. Gwen Tennyson swung her palm forcefully, and pink mana formed an energy ball, flying towards Big Chill. An energy ball. You can already use this. Looking at the incoming energy ball and feeling the heat coming towards him, Big Chill immediately exhaled cold air. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The cold air touched the energy ball, continuously freezing it, and eventually turned the energy ball into a block of ice. But Gwen Tennyson had already flown far away. Switch, feedback. Big Chill gritted his teeth, rays of light flashed on his body, and feedback appeared from within. But as soon as he switched to feedback, a sense of weakness welled up from within his body. He even found himself uncontrollably looking at the batteries in the rust bucket and swallowing his saliva. Oh no, feedback is hungry, he's out of energy. If I can just touch Gwen, I can absorb the mana. Feedback suppressed his desire and looked towards Gwen Tennyson. At this moment, watching Gwen Tennyson, who was covered in mana, his body trembled with excitement. Delicious. Whoosh. Feedback accelerated and rushed towards Gwen Tennyson. Xiao Ran, you are not my match, because I am familiar with all of your aliens. Gwen Tennyson was exceptionally calm. She reached out towards the ground, and the mana wrapped around pieces of broken bricks and tiles on the ground, throwing them directly at feedback. Driven by the mana, these broken bricks and tiles were as fierce and surging as cannonballs. Bang, bang, bang. Feedback's expression changed slightly. His hand blade was wreathed in electric light, slicing through the incoming broken bricks and tiles like a blade. Relying on powerful martial arts, he was actually able to withstand the mana attacks even without energy. Feedback is truly too strong. While shocked, Gwen Tennyson secretly clenched her fists. It's a good thing you're out of energy, otherwise, even if I'm familiar with you, I wouldn't be able to handle you. Feedback was just used a short while ago and hasn't fully recovered yet. Switching to Jetray or Big Chill might not be able to beat Gwen. Feedback looked anxious. After all, Jetray and Big Chill's moves are all lethal techniques, they don't have any incapacitation techniques. But Humungosaur and the others can't fly, how am I supposed to catch Gwen? Why is this white check-in task so difficult? We're here. Gwen Tennyson's face lit up as she gazed at the ruined highway in the distance. If we follow this road, we can get home. I can't let her keep walking. Feedback felt a tightening in his chest and forced himself to calm down and think of a strategy. There was only one alien that could fly, burrow underground, and was unfamiliar to Gwen Tennyson. Whoosh. Switched again. Gwen Tennyson turned abruptly, hovering in midair, and looked toward the light in the sky. A strange, slender creature with sharp claws, resembling a velociraptor, dropped from the sky and landed on the ground. Is this what it feels like to be XLR8? XLR8 raised his claws and looked up at Gwen Tennyson. Gwen Tennyson's movements seemed to have slowed down significantly. No, that wasn't it. It was because XLR8's speed was too fast, and his reaction time was quick enough, that Gwen appeared to have slowed down. Xiao Ran, how are you going to take me back using this guy who can't fly? Why don't we just walk together? Gwen Tennyson made one final request, pleading with him. I will take you back. XLR8 said firmly. Bang. Behind XLR8, a soda can suddenly sprang up and slammed heavily toward his figure. Propelled by mana, the can punched right through XLR8's body. How did it go straight through? Gwen Tennyson immediately covered her mouth, watching the pierced XLR8 with a panicked expression. Whoosh. XLR8's figure faded away. It was just an afterimage. An afterimage. Then where is his real body? It's here. Gwen Tennyson immediately looked around and saw XLR8's afterimage again on the ground 10 meters away. Her pupils suddenly dilated, and her expression turned to shock. In front of that afterimage, there were a dozen more afterimages. More than a dozen afterimages were in a sprinting pose, one after another, with the final one stopping abruptly in front of an abandoned car. And on the roof of the abandoned car, a pair of footprints were clearly visible. This is. Gwen Tennyson looked at the footprints, and her nervousness spiked. She felt like she was being toyed with. Suddenly, the sunlight above her dimmed, and darkness fell like a nightmare. The moment Gwen Tennyson looked up, XLR8's a figure descended from the sky like a demon king, pouncing on her. Caught you. XLR8 carried Gwen Tennyson and slammed heavily onto the ground, shattering a large section of the road. Smoke covered the road surface. Gwen Tennyson walked out of the smoke unscathed, but the mana on her body had vanished. She clenched her fist slightly, but the mana did not appear as she had hoped. Gwen Tennyson muttered to herself, even if I were given another chance to use mana, I still couldn't beat this alien. Other aliens are just fast. XLR8 is both fast and has fierce reaction times. With that, he could rely on his extreme reaction speed to perform various subtle movements, perfectly subduing Gwen Tennyson. Gwen, it's time to go back. XLR8 slowly stood up, lifted the mask with the lightning pattern on his face, and looked at Gwen Tennyson with a complex expression. The fight is over. Xiao Ran, you underestimate me. A touch of fierceness appeared on Gwen Tennyson's face as she walked up toward the ruins. If we follow the highway forward, we'll reach a gas station in an hour. There must be some weapons like fire axes or fire extinguishers there. There's no other choice. XLR8 clenched his fist slightly, preparing to strike. Although she wasn't his biological sister, it was still necessary to give her a heavy punch. Just as he was following behind Gwen Tennyson, about to make a move. Roar. A hair-raising roar rang out, as if it had been forced out from the throat. A zombie with brown hair, wearing a suit and looking like an office worker, staggered toward them. Gwen, it's a zombie. XLR8's mask dropped, and he spoke with a grim face. The next second, he appeared behind the zombie and drove a claw into its body. Although he had killed countless zombies not long ago, this was the first time Xiao Ran had used such violent means to crush someone's body. I have to get used to it. XLR8's heart was pounding, and he kept reassuring himself while shaking the blood off his claws and body. Gwen Tennyson watched all of this from up close, her face turning pale. After a moment of silence, she turned slowly, her tone sorrowful. I'm sorry, Xiao Ran, I shouldn't have caused trouble for you and Grandpa. I always thought dealing with zombies was easy, but I can't be as decisive as you. Don't say that. Unless it's an absolute last resort, I won't let you deal with any zombies. I've already lost Ben. XLR8 clenched his fists tightly and turned back to look in the direction of Bellwood, his eyes filled with grief and indignation. And, Bellwood. Only by becoming stronger could he resolve all of this, and deal with the error omnitrix that had triggered this series of conflicts. He didn't dare to bet that the error omnitrix would definitely run out of power like in the original error universe. Let's go back. Gwen Tennyson looked back at the direction of Bellwood one last time and wiped the tears from her eyes. The two of them walked with heavy steps, leaving this place of trouble behind. In the rust bucket. This book, Xiao Ran held a book in both hands, looking at the mind-boggling content recorded inside. Is this for real? As an Anodite, after you possess mana, the first step should be learning how to control your mana freely. This is very simple, you need to use a pressure medium to achieve this, such as. This book recorded how an Anodite could control and strengthen their own mana. The title of the book was, How to be an Anodite. This was the white tier reward Xiao Ran had obtained from checking in. System, shouldn't you have given me the technique directly? Why did you give me a book? Xiao Ran asked the system, confused. Ding, because it was detected that the host cannot use the mana control method, it has been converted into a practice book. Xiao Ran's mouth twitched violently. What a scam. He had wasted this reward. What book are you reading? Let me see, too, Xiao Ran. A troubled-looking Gwen Tennyson, upon seeing the book in Xiao Ran's hand, took it as a matter of course and started flipping through it. As an honor student, her way of relieving stress was reading. Gwen, never mind, go ahead and read it. I just don't know if there's still enough time. Xiao Ran looked at the focused Gwen Tennyson, feeling a bit of relief. We're leaving, everyone. Max turned the steering wheel and stepped hard on the gas, speeding off in the direction of Mount Rushmore. The rust bucket became almost like an afterimage on the road, and the scenery outside the window blurred rapidly. Grandpa, why are you driving so fast? Xiao Ran immediately gripped his seatbelt tightly, while Gwen Tennyson held the seatbelt with one hand and pressed the book onto the table to read with the other. I've already driven this road once, I know the obstacles and everything by heart. Max said calmly. Who isn't a genius? Bang! The next second, a smear of blood appeared on the rust bucket's windshield, as if something had been hit. Of course, the rust bucket kept driving at full speed without stopping. Only on the road. Zombie feedback was vomiting blood, his sinister gaze fixed tightly on the rust bucket, his voice sounding like a demon from hell. I will kill you all. You have already found countless ways to die. That's the end of part 1. Part 2 is coming soon.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and support our channel for more stories.